looking at Akron.
Yeah, it'll be time to turn the page until later in the season when we're 7-1 or something like that, and we're staring down the barrel of a top 10 ranking, and then we look back on that LSU game and think, man, that could have been the one. So yes, it will be time to turn the page.
You know what? If we're gonna do that, we'll when we're 9-1.
There you go.
And we're having to go through Missouri. No, it's Wofford and then Clemson, and you're like, boy, if we were undefeated, we have a small margin of error.
I am granting you permission. When we get to 9-1, then we can we can start looking back at this game and say, you know what?
Totally good point.
That was the call.
There you go.
So we're gonna bank it for now, but when we get to 9-1. Then we can bring it back up.
Totally good call on that. Totally good call. But we will get that out of our system. 803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in this morning. What we're going to do is give out some grades. We're not going to look at grades. We're not going to look at others' grades. We're going to give our grades. So if you want to give some grades this morning, excuse me, if you've got a little bit of that middle school teacher in you.
It's interim report time.
3 games.
Interim reports. First quarter's down.
Hard to believe.
Yeah.
You wait and you wait and you wait, and you go, boy, we're still in the – and I may go ahead and just ask you this before we give out the grades, because we did this last year, and the start of this year is different. When, again, with this team, or is it with every team, when do we go, okay, that's who we are?
I've been saying give me three weeks. I think I have a pretty good grip. I think I have a good grip on where we are. I think.
I'll be interested to hear your grades.
Obviously, things can change. This is an interim report. This is not a final quarter grade. It's not a semester.
Right. Oh, yeah.
It's just an interim. This is just to let you know, hey, this is where you stand. You need to turn in some assignments. You need to get some things going. If you keep going the way that you're going, you're going to do well. Or if you keep going the way that you're going, it might not turn out the way you want.
How many of those conversations did you have to have in your teaching?
Enough. Well, here's what happens. People don't pay attention until you give them the interim grade.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
It's like, Bill, I've told you haven't turned in anything. Bill's just kind of going through.
I get there.
He'll get to it, and then he sees that 65 one. He's like, Coach. Like,
well, then you got to take the 65 back to the parents.
Exactly.
And the parents are like, well, you say you've been in your room studying every night. What's happened here?
Yes, exactly.
Now you realize it's real.
It doesn't get real until you send out an interim grade.
Okay, so we will get into that coming up in the next 2 segments here. We'll do some offensive grades, some defensive grades, and let you weigh in if you want to do so on what you think the grades should be and kind of go from there. So we'll get into that. Kind of a light day yesterday. Because South Carolina does not play a game in 2 weeks. We did not discover any kind of game times or anything like that. We did have plenty of NFL news. A very good Monday night football game. Kirk Cousins. Welcome back, Kirk Cousins, with your torn up Achilles and you're yelling at media reporters. Do you like that? And you're just winning in prime time. Do you know how many prime time victories that is for Kirk Cousins now?
I don't.
Well, I shouldn't say how many in total. That is 5 of his last 6 now. He has won on Monday Night Football. Look out for Kirk Cousins on Monday Night Football.
This squares directly with my theory that it doesn't really matter what you do for the rest of the season as long as you win in primetime. If you win in primetime, then people are like, oh, that Kirk Cousins guy, he's pretty good. Conversely, if you lose in primetime, they start saying, oh, I don't know.
Excuse me, 4, not 5 of 6. 4 of his past 5 Monday night games. And it was Raheem Morris's first victory as the full-time head coach of the Falcons. Because remember, he had the interim stint for a little while, but Kirk Cousins now dominant. You don't want to see the Falcons on Monday Night Football.
I heard a sentence that I'm not sure I've ever thought I would ever hear, and they said, Philadelphia scored and said, you can't give Kirk Cousins that much time. And I was like, I don't know if that's true, but okay. And he proved it true.
Everybody knows that you can't give Cousins a whole lot of time.
I never heard
He knows he's limited on that 4-year, $180 million contract. He's got to get it done now. So if you're giving him time.
I just had never thought of Kirk Cousins in that particular way, but sure, let's go with it.
Falcons last night, if you're just waking up, 22-21 over the Eagles. It was a 70-yard drive that culminated with a 7-yard touchdown pass to Drake London in the final 34 seconds of that ball game, breaking the hearts of the Eagles. And the Eagles last year, Preston, were 10-1 at one point. They were 10-1 at one point last year, fell off the map to end the season, and they're not exactly. They went down. They played the game in Brazil. And they were able to, I believe, win that, if I'm thinking correctly. But they were able to go and get that game started with a victory, but then lose this one at home, by the way. This was not in Atlanta last night. So the Eagles, now you start to look around at them and go like, hey, are you guys falling apart? You guys are tied with the Commanders. I know it doesn't mean anything. It's just fun to say that both teams, the Commanders are 1-1 now with a rookie quarterback.
Well, we say it doesn't mean anything, but there's the statistic I heard when it was in reference to the Baltimore Ravens. A team that starts 0-2 has a 5% chance of making the playoffs. So
5%.
Yeah, since 2020, not 5%. Only 5 teams out of all the teams that have started 0-2 have made the playoffs. So
Ravens and Bengals would be in that mix.
Say it doesn't mean anything, but
Colts, Jags, and the Will Levis-led Titans.
Yeah.
You throw the Broncos, so Jay Phillips' season is over. The Giants, we kind of knew their season was over pretty quickly. And then that'll bring us to the 0-2 Panthers.
Yeah.
Where Bryce Young is being benched for Andy Dalton.
The Red Rocket.
And we'll get into this later on in the show, but how's Andy Dalton still in the league?
Hanging on.
I mean, how is he still in the league? But that's not something you put on the career goals list of get benched by Andy Dalton. That, get benched by Tom Brady. Okay, totally understandable. Get benched by Aaron Rodgers. Got it. Can kind of understand it. You could even maybe say get benched by, say, a Dak Prescott. A little harder to maybe stomach, but okay, you understand it. Andy Dalton's not the guy that you're like, yeah, he beat me out.
Veteran leadership.
You can lead from the sidelines, Preston Thorne. You can lead from the sidelines. 803-404-6100. Again, how you can weigh in this morning if you want to do so. We'll also see, I don't know if we'll have time for it today. I think Preston wants to get into it tomorrow. Presidents, athletic directors being held accountable for ridiculous contracts because it looks like I'm going to use the term, the chickens are coming home to roost for Florida here. They're going to owe Billy Napier some money.
Yeah, that's a whole conversation that we need to have tomorrow because not only is the athletic director objectively terrible, if you look at his recent hires, they have some issues going on with their school president, which, by the way, we're not immune to that.
Right.
This is something we've experienced around here. So, yeah, I think it's very interesting what's going on there.
One other interesting thing, and I want to see the overnight odds on this, but I was listening to Jay Phillips and I was listening to Elijah Campbell yesterday. I went home and pulled out my computer to go look at some stuff, get some stuff ready. My live stream was still up from yesterday, so I jumped on the live stream. I started chatting with all the folks in the live stream. Reminder, you can always come and join on our live stream where our chat gets going every morning. Go to the Game TV Radio, powered by Integrated Media and sponsored by Shepherd's Glass. And you can see our smiling faces and you can see how we look each and every day. But more importantly, you can get in there and you can actually chat with the people that are in the live stream and be a part of that, have some football discussion there if you would like to do that, give you something a little bit more to do. But we might have to get into the Heisman odds, Preston Thorne, and how they might have evolved a little bit after a certain well-known backup stepped to the forefront and had a really good weekend. Had a really good weekend for the Texas Longhorns.
The Dr. Pepper commercial may be more true than what is it? Art imitating life? What's that phrase?
Yeah.
Is art imitating life? Life imitating art? What are we doing?
Yeah. Depending on where you're looking, there are multiple books. Some of them, ESPN Bet being the main one, now has Arch Manning with better Heisman odds than Quinn Ewers.
Okay.
Welcome to college football. We are when something like this is what happens, we're fully immersed in the season. When the backup comes in, hadn't started a game. Remind you, has not started a game and has now better odds at certain books. Not all of them. Not all of them. I want to be clear on that. But, for example, at ESPN Bet, Arch Manning plus 1,600. Quinn Ewers plus 1,800. You look down the line a little bit. At DraftKings, he is plus 1,200. Quinn Ewers not even on the board anymore. Welcome to college football,
buddy. It happens fast. Comes at you fast.
So we may get into that also later on. 803-404-6100 is how we can weigh in this morning if you want to. Again, we'll get into some grades. We'll give out some grades here coming up. Offense, defense, Preston Thorne. Professor Thorne takes to the podium next to tell us what's been happening over at the
We'd
university.
love to hear your grades too. We welcome all.
We'll show you how to do it. We'll show you how to do it. How Professor Thorne does grading, what he's grading, and then you can follow along. We'll get into that this morning. 803-404-6100. It is the early game.
And a little bit of a damp start to your day. We don't really have any accidents to report at this time. Please be careful out there because the highways are wet. We're looking for peaks of sunshine today. Generally, a slight chance for a shower that should be kind of moving out. And looking for a high today of about 80 to overnight low of 67. Tomorrow, 85 with a few showers possible. 85 on Thursday with the rain clearing out. And really, the rain pattern should be out of our system for the next several days, as a matter of fact. So good news there, but just a couple showers and a little bit cool. 65 on the early game.
Up and Adam, 6:17 on our Tuesday morning. Where a reminder, Shane Beamer will speak today at 1 o'clock. It'll be the Shane Beamer press conference. You can hear it right here on 107.5 The Game, where we will see what Coach Beamer has to say. Be interesting to see if he has anything to say, if he kind of reports back to us on what maybe the league office has said about some of the penalties. Game's over. And South Carolina could have won the game without the penalty issues. They did not. But I would be interested to hear an explanation of some of them, not necessarily how Shane thinks they impacted the game, just an explanation of what the referee saw.
Yeah, that would be nice. That would be nice to hear, and obviously probably won't agree with it, but I still like to hear what the thinking or the thought process was behind it.
I'm thinking the umps are going to sound like, or the referees are going to sound like Brian Kelly at his first press conference. Little that Cajun accent going, just saying.
Very, very possible. Very possible. So 803-404-6100. All right, let's give out some grades. Take to the podium, Professor Thorne, and lead us through this.
All right, it's interim time. It's 3 weeks into the season out of a 12-week season, so we have gotten the first quarter down of the season. I've been on record saying I needed about 3 weeks to start giving my assessment of the team. We've had ups and downs throughout the season. You remember how you felt the first Monday we came in here? You were depressed. The second Monday we came in here, you were exasperated. You were excited. And then this week we've had a range of emotions. So I think we have a very good sample size based on who we've played, how we've played. And so we're going to pass out some grades today. We're going to start with offense first. We're going to go through by unit. We're going to go through by unit and start with offense first. So I guess we got to start with the bang. Let's start with the biggest group first. And I'm going to go with offensive line.
Okay.
Let's start with the offensive line first. And with the offensive line, there was a lot of conversation going into the season about who they were, what they were, who was coming back, who was going to play. I'm just going to give some numbers first before I give my grade, because I do think it is important to back up what we have with the grades. After 3 weeks in the season, this is from Brad Crawford on Twitter. Shout out to Brad. After 3 weeks in the season, South Carolina ranks last in the SEC in the following stats.
Oh.
Sacks allowed with 13, tackles for loss with 31, first downs with 49, and third down conversion with 27.5. There's a couple other states we'll get to, but I think the ones that are mainly primarily concerning the O-line are sacks allowed and tackles for loss allowed, and they're last in SEC. With that being said, I'm going to give the O-line a C-.
Okay.
Going to give them a C- based on what we got. What you thinking?
It makes me feel better. I was going to go, if I'm reading this correctly, I was going to go C. You said they've given up 13 sacks this year, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so it was 4 against Old Dominion, which was ugly, 4 against Kentucky, which probably seemed about right, and 5 last week. And I think in some circumstances, you can't necessarily blame that all on the offensive line. You've got quarterback. I think the quarterback situation has added, I'd say maybe 2 or 3. I'd have to go back and watch all 13 sacks where the quarterbacks have done something. You look at what you mentioned, the rushing game there. They seem to be improving slightly every week. The Old Dominion game, I think we agreed, was kind of ugly. 34 carries, 108 yards in that one. It got a little bit better against Kentucky. If I'm reading out this, actually, I think it was a little bit different, but it seems like it has improved on a weekly basis for them, slightly, Preston. I don't want to make it sound like the offensive line is actually going out there and just lighting people up. But, so far this year, the first game, 56 carries for 174 yards. But that kind of gets skewed because there was so many carries. 35 carries for 79 yards against Kentucky. Better defensive line. And then last week, I know that I mentioned yesterday the big numbers of 75 and 66 on two particular carries. But 41 carries, 243 yards. I give him a C. I go C. I'll maybe be a little bit more polite than you because what I'm seeing, I think I'm going to bump him up going, I see potential here, and I want you to take it to the next level. So I'm going to kind of hug on you, but you're very dangerous to going to a D.
That's fine. And I think that's a fair grade. So with that being said, with the statistics that you said, I think we'll move to running back. Based on what you said, I'm going to give the running back position a B.
Okay.
I'm going to give the running back position a B. I think Rocket Sanders has been a great addition to the offense. We haven't had anybody who can make the big explosive play like you saw against LSU in a long time. And he's provided an element of being dynamic to the offense. So he has been a B. I don't think he played great against Kentucky, which was the only reason why he's not getting an A. But he's been very, very solid, great addition.
So I'm interested to kind of track this throughout the season. I've started trying to pay more attention to 1,000-yard seasons here. Through the first quarter of the season, Rocket Sanders is basically 35 yards ahead of where he needs to be. He's at 285 yards total. And quite frankly, if you look at what he's done, 56 carries this year for 285 yards. I know that the 66-yard touchdown helps tremendously on that, but he's at 5.1 yards per carry, and he's at 4 touchdowns. He is performing, I think, as we would have expected. I don't know if he's been above what we expected. I don't know. Maybe some people say, I thought we'd get a little bit more. I'm going to give him a C+, though, because you brought it up as a room.
That's good. It's a fair point.
And Oscar Attaway has 6 carries for 5 yards. Juju McDowell has 5 carries for 19 yards. They're not getting anything else from the backups. It's Rocket and Lenoris, or it's bust, and Lenoris is a quarterback, so I'm not counting him. So you have, and some of that falls on play calling, but I'm going to give him a C+ because it's not an individual and it's a room.
It's a good grade.
If you're asking me to grade Rocket Sanders, it'd be a B+.
That's a good grade.
I'd be perfectly fine. So you give him the B+, but the others, I think, bring it down. I'm going to go C+ on that.
All right, so then we'll move from the running backs out to the skill positions I think I'm going to break this down into wide receivers and tight ends.
Okay.
But the grade doesn't change for each group.
Okay.
It's a D. For both groups. It's going to be a D for both groups, for both the wide receivers and the tight ends. The first game with the wide receivers, the issue was perimeter blocking. So as a wide receiver, either you're gonna block or you're going to make some plays. And they haven't really done either consistently in both games. Same for tight end. Brady Hunt was brought in here to be a blocking tight end. He hasn't done well in that according to his PFF grades, and he's been no threat in the passing game. So we're grading a room. If we're grading a room, I'm going to go with a D in the perimeter positions, both wide receiver and tight end. There hasn't been a 100-yard receiving game yet, and they've just been pretty generally inconsistent. The bright spot, I will say, is freshman Michael Smith in the tight end room.
Smith leads he's now tied with Joshua Simon in receptions. They both have 5. The 2 leading wide receivers are Jared Brown and Mazeo Bennett Jr. Brown with 7 for 98 yards so far this year. Bennett for 6 for 88. I'm going to go C+ for both, actually. And here's the reason. I think you have to take into account the quarterback situation. You can see where I'm kind of going here with my overall grades. The quarterback situation, I think, has held them back. Jared Brown has made some plays in the last 2 games, and I do think his injury, the hamstring injury, may have actually been just as impactful as losing Lenoris Sellers in the previous game. Jared Brown has made some really good catches. I questioned his hands after the first game. What was it, the second series? I think in the first game he dropped a really long touchdown pass. I questioned his hands. He's come back and made some really nice catches. Mazeo Bennett Jr. is coming along nicely. I'm a little surprised he got 50 snaps, led the wide receiving group with that many snaps in the last game. I'm a little disappointed, and I don't know who to put the blame on. Is it the quarterback? Is it the play calling? I'm a little disappointed in the usage of Vandravius Jacobs. He had the big catch and run last week at the very end there that put South Carolina in the field goal position. Dalvon Campbell has one reception on the year for 6 yards. He could have 2 for a whole lot more, if not for some kind of penalty. I kind of am going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Almost say, I don't know how you would do this and be like, oh, mom and dad aren't helping quite as much at home. And that situation would be maybe, hey, Dow Loggins isn't helping you quite as much. I'm going to give them a C+. I kind of think that they could be put in some better positions to succeed. I am with you on the blocking. The blocking is what keeps it from being higher.
Based on what we thought coming into the season, you feeling more favorably about them than what we thought coming into the season?
I am. I really – Jared Brown, Bennett Jr., if there was one real – and again, it's not on them. If there's one real complaint, I wish they would get Jacobs more involved. And it looks like Dalvon Campbell, he's made some nice catches, or he's made one nice catch, I guess. I'd like to see more from those guys. But I feel like it's not on them right now as much as it maybe is on the guy calling them.
So let's hold it because we still got the 2 big grades, I think, coming up, right? I think we have the quarterback and the OC, which we both have grades. So let's talk about those on the other side.
We'll do that. 803-404-6100. All right. So you understand.
Let's get those grades rolling in.
You understand what's coming in and how we're doing that. A texter weighs in and says, yes, we are last in the SEC in sacks and negative yards, but has anyone else played the same level of competition through 3 weeks? Talking about the SEC. Obviously, South Carolina the only team right now to play 2 conference games. So we got that. And then Chris goes, oh boy, he broke. Good grief, Chris. Can't you just give a letter grade? He's giving me a 3.0, a 2.75, a 1.75. 4.0 is the highest attempt.
He's kind of right. We're in college. We need GPAs.
All right, I'll analyze what you've sent and try and get to this text message as well. 803-404-6100. We'll get out to the phone lines when we come back as well. You're listening to the early game.
Preston here. Let me tell you about my friends at Integrated Media. We've told you all year, a quarter of the season has gone by. That means you missed the spring, you missed the summer, but it's not too late because you can still get your outdoor setup ready to get whatever you need. Do you want to get outdoors? You want to get Sonos TVs for speakers and music? You can get that. Do you want to get Samsung Terrace TVs that are waterproof? That would come in handy on days like today and yesterday. You can also do that. Wi-Fi that works indoors and outdoors. My personal favorite, you can control all your devices from just one remote. So from home theater setup to adjusting your thermostat or monitoring your security system from your cell phone, Integrated Media is the company that you need to call. So call Nathan and Michael at 803-948-8327. That's 803-948-8327. Or reach them online at integratedmediainc.com. That's online, integratedmediainc.com.
Just got word of an accident, Fontaine Road at Highway 1. So caution there. Also, I-26 westbound there at exit 119. So again, that's I-26 westbound there at Highway 21, otherwise known as exit 119. A little bit of misty conditions this morning, but then we'll see some peaks of sun, 80 for the high, 85 tomorrow, 85 on Thursday and Friday. Maybe a couple pop-up showers tomorrow, but really that's about the only other rain in the forecast for the next several days. So good news there, but right now, like I said, just a little bit of scattered mist and 65 on 107.5 The Game.
Eight 803-404-6100. Send in your offensive grades. We'll get to the offense coordinator and to Lenore Sellers and the quarterback group here in just a second. Want to remind you, September is Hunger Action Month. The Game and Hardee's teaming up for the Hardee's Roundup. Just go to your participating Hardee's and round up your bill to the nearest dollar amount. All donations go to the Harvest Hope Food Bank for students. So again, it is Hunger Action Month, and the Game and Hardee's teaming up for the Hardee's Roundup. Go to your participating Hardee's, round up your bill to the nearest dollar amount. All donations go to the Harvest Hope Food Bank for students. So we've given our grades. Real quick, we haven't given quarterback, we haven't given offense coordinator. Running back, I went C+. Again, it's the group. It's not an individual. It would have been different. Tight end, C+. Wide receiver, C+. And offensive line, a C. Preston, give yours real quick what you've given.
For offensive line, I went C-. For wide receivers, I went D. And for running backs, I went B+, but I only was actually grading Rocket.
Okay. Yeah. See, if you're making me to only grade Rocket, he would be a B+. But they've got nothing.
That's correct.
Out of anybody else. And again, some of that does fall on the offense coordinator.
But you're grading on almost on a little bit of a curve.
Feels like it. I went with the intention of grading the room, but then I realized I was only grading Rocket, and so Bill's actually right. But my grade was a B+, and that was just based on Rocket's performance.
Yeah. All right. By the way, we might get to it. I do have a prize box category that certain players get to go to the prize box. I'm stealing from SEC Shorts, by the way. All right. So where do you want to? You want to go quarterback here and then the overall OC?
Yes. I'm going to go with Lenore Sellers. We heard a lot coming in. He was hyped up. He's performed up and down. I'm going to go with a C.
Yeah.
A flat C for Lenore. So I think there's been some glimpses of what we know he can possibly be in the future. I think he's going to need to take care of the ball. Too many careless interceptions / fumbles. I'm not going to say he's a turnover machine, but he's coughed the ball up and given the ball away, and especially in some opportune times when points matter. But he has been the catalyst, and we've seen what's behind him also. So I'm going to give Lenore a C.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. The fumbles are the issue, and he's still learning. But this does have the element of a guy who easily strolled through high school. It wasn't the grades weren't tough. Now he's having to pick it up a little bit.
I got to study.
Yeah. Yeah, this has an element. This has that element of this is not high school anymore. This isn't just show up, with a notepad and maybe my book and listen to what the professor or teacher says. Now there's a little bit tougher element to it. If I thought his ceiling was about where he's at, I might bump him to a B. But this is a situation I think where you look at him and be like, look, you can do better.
Yes,
you can do better, and I really do hope he plays against Akron. I don't think you talk about a weird question. I don't think there's a question if Akron is the worst opponent that he will have played in the opening 4, and I'd be interested to see him if he's healthy. We'll learn about that. A reminder, Shane Beamer today at 1 o'clock.
To your point, when is a C? I will also give Robbie Ashford a C. And he should walk out of that class smiling with his chest up high, because that is the best he can do. The best he can get is a C in this quarterbacking class, because he's 50-50 throwing the ball.
He's 3 of 5, actually.
I'm sorry.
He's 60%, so he's above
average. So when he gets this C from me, he should feel very, very happy. Norris, on the other hand, he can do better.
Okay. Yeah, Ashford's actually only averaging 2.2 yards per carry, 17 carries, 64 yards. Oh, actually, he's got for a net. He has got 17 carries for 27 yards. He's got 27 yards in lost yardage. All right, let's go to the offensive coordinator.
So for the offense as a whole, I'm going to give him a C-, which leads to the offensive coordinator, Dow Loggins, who I'm going to give a D. And I'm going to give Dow Loggins a D because we haven't found a consistent offensive identity yet. We've tried, and only because against ODU, we didn't get 300 yards worth of 300 yards worth of offense. Kentucky, we had 183 yards of offense.
No, that was them. We had 252.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Or to something. There's two. I want to say 252.
Let's say if we had 250, we still didn't cross that 300-yard mark. So if I have that number wrong, I'll change my grade to a C-.
Okay.
I'll change my grade to a C-. Thank you for checking that. LSU, you have the numbers. They were spurred on by 2 big plays, but the third down conversion percentage is still bothering me. 3 for 12 against LSU, 3 for 10 against Kentucky. It still doesn't feel like – it seems like with Dow, that first drive, he can draw it up. He's studied all week. He can get us that first drive. We'll march down the field. After that, we seem to lack offensive identity throughout the games.
I've got him down. So there's a couple different elements to this. I think he's trying to get people involved. And you and I just talked about this off air. Everybody goes, well, how hard is it? Just get Nick Harbor involved. Well, they tried on Saturday. They ran a bubble screen for him. A very easy I'll give you an example. Remember the old Lorenzo Nunez experiment where we're like, well, he can't play quarterback. Let's put him at wide receiver. And I remember being on the sideline of a scrimmage, and they threw a bubble screen to him, and it just went right through his hands. Well, Nick Harbor, the ball went right through his hands and hit him in the chest. Thankfully, it bounced up, and he was able to grab it real quick and try and go upfield. I feel like Dow's trying things. I feel like they're running Jared Brown on the jet sweeps. They're trying to take advantage of Lenore Sellers' legs, and it worked on Saturday. I don't know if that was necessarily a Sean Elliott thing or a Dow Loggins thing. They've figured out how to get – they're not doing crazy things. Whether you want to blame the offensive line, blame him. Because I think he's trying to be creative, but at the same time I don't agree with all the play calls, I give him a C. I feel like I was about to say a B, and everybody's gonna be like, "You moron!" But I give him a C because I think he's trying things. But I just some of the play calls, I wasn't crazy about all of them on Saturday.
Well, I'll tell you what my biggest point of contention was on Saturday. I didn't agree with, and again, who am I? But I didn't agree with the way we handled the end of the first half. And in my group of old men texting each other in our group chat, I kept trying to figure out, why aren't we just taking this thing to the half? Like we were winning, the momentum was in our favor, and we kept running plays. And not to be a consequentialist or looking at the end, but that's when Norris got hurt at the end of the half on a drive that we didn't have to do. We could have just kneeled on the ball, took it into the half, and that would have carried on momentum. I didn't agree with the handling of that.
I think falls on the head coach. Possibly. I think that's Shane Beamer. I would have a hard time believing that Dow Loggins would tell Shane, we're going for it here. And Shane would be like, oh, okay. That's possible. I say that because I did feel like on Saturday, and it's really interesting as I get older and how I observe games and to go back to things I used to see with, say, a Steve Spurrier or a Ray Tanner in baseball, how some guys just have that Midas touch. Plays work. I don't know how. Are you just great because of it? Do you see something different? Because I felt like there were plays that South Carolina tried that if they worked, we'd have been like, that's genius. Oh, you tried to go down and score on LSU before the half since LSU was getting the ball, and it worked. Wow, it worked. Well, it didn't. Not only did it not work, you injured your quarterback.
It's the worst possible scenario.
Like, the only thing that could have been worse is you could have thrown a pick six, and he get hurt.
Yeah, and he got hurt. Maybe a pick six might have even been better at the time, because then maybe we would have still had a quarterback. And again, I just didn't love the way it felt like we were trying to press when I don't know if we needed to at that moment. But you're right. That could have been that. I would assume that might have been the head coach's decision.
If they hit one of those, look, even.
And then we threw the ball.
Here's what I disagreed with. But again, if it works, it works, and I don't disagree with it. If I wanted them when they got down there, I think they were right there on the little green line that signified Alex Herrera's field goal kicking distance. And run the ball 3 times. You had 2 timeouts. Get the extra 6, 7, 8 yards that maybe he doesn't make it, maybe he does, but get the extra few yards that gets him a little bit better distance, a little bit better, and kick the field goal, and at that time go up 27-16. Go back over a double-digit lead, and I felt like that would have kind of taken all the momentum back away from LSU. Instead, they tried to throw it 3 times, and on the second one, Sellers got hurt, and then you bring in Robbie Ashford, and I believe, if I remember correctly, he got sacked or something happened that pushed him basically out of field goal, what would have been out of field goal range, and it kind of was the same. I don't want to say the same thing that happened at the very end of the game, but you were kind of in position, I thought, to maybe try and run it, and just even if you make it a 45-yarder for Alex Herrera as opposed to a 49-yarder. I didn't agree with those. I'm not sure I agreed with having Lenore Sellers on a third, and I think it was a 3rd and long, where he threw the interception in the back of the end zone. Now, if you're Dow Loggins, you don't call that play up thinking he's just going to heave it up, because it's not like the LSU defensive back had to make a great play. LSU defensive back there in the first quarter had to just go down and make a catch over his shoulder.
Yes, and and also that was another thing I kept saying. Like, okay, you don't plan on your player making a bad decision, but as a coach, you have to be aware that this is an option and that it might happen. I was saying, like, you have to protect him from himself sometimes, and I'm not sure if we did that.
Somebody get the message to the Tennessee Titans staff after what they said, because you don't count on Will Levis doing those Will Levis things.
Right.
And they say, well, that's what we drew up. 803-404-6100. We'll try and get back to the defense. We'll try and get to the defense in the next segment as well. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen. It's the early game.
It is Jen for CHW Cabinetry in Lexington. And as far as all the demolition and stuff we had to do for the kitchen, that was not super fun, but it was a lot better once we were introduced to the folks at CHW Cabinetry in Lexington. We ended up having a great experience in picking things out with this locally owned, female-owned business. The installation process was flawless. The photorealistic rendering that they offered so that we could get the rest of our kitchen picked out and ready to assemble once all of the cabinetry was in. It was a great experience overall. They can also help you replace things in your closet, replace those wire hanging racks. They can put in drawers in your pantry. So many things that they can do to make your home more functional. I encourage you to reach out to them today if you're looking to make any updates in your home. CHWCabinetry.com or call them at 803-520-6837. Tell them Jen Jensen sent you. CHW Cabinetry, passion from inspiration to installation.
Bill Gunner for the Mortgage Guru, Jacob Crowder with First Palmetto Bank. Right now is the time to get in touch with Jacob Crowder. If you are looking at moving into Richland County or thinking about moving in Richland County, now is the time with the Community Reinvestment Product. That's right. For more information, you need to call the Mortgage Guru, Jacob Crowder, 803-719-1005, and learn more about this incredible deal taking place with First Palmetto Bank and Jacob Crowder. Again, it's called the Community Reinvestment Product, 803-719-1005. That's how you can reach out to Jacob Crowder and learn more, or you can email him, the letter J, Crowder, CROWDER, at firstpalmetto.com is the way to do that. Give Jacob Crowder, the Mortgage Guru, a call today and see what he can do for you. Again, 803-719-1005. 6:50 on your Tuesday morning. Reminder, Shane Beamer press conference coming up at 1 o'clock today. You'll hear it right here on 107.5 The Game, and a couple of you apparently really need to tune in. That is when we will learn about any updates to Lenora Sellers. Although, Preston, before we do special teams grades, how much faith do we put in the injury report for Lenora Sellers today?
Well, we know he has an ankle. And I'm not sure we'll get after that.
There you go. But that'll be when you're able to get an update. That'll be the first update on Lenora Sellers that any of us know. So if you're looking for an update, tune in today, 1 o'clock, the Shane Beamer press conference right here, 107.5 The Game. So we'll skip defense because Preston's got a special team story, and we'll go straight to some grades on special teams and then get your special teams. You called it a bear position, I believe, yesterday. I'm interested to hear about this.
Yeah, it's the three bears. It's the three bears, the personal protectors. We'll get to that in a second. But special teams, we had a big gap to fill with Pete Limbo leaving, and we have been accustomed to being able to gain some advantages in special teams. And I was concerned about the special teams because of all the reasons that I just stated. And to be totally honest, I'm going to give the special teams a B+.
Okay.
I'm going to give the special teams a B+. They have been a plus for a majority of the games. We haven't given up any silly scores and or plays on special teams. It has been an advantage for the team, whether you talk about blocked field goals, blocked punts. The return game has been neutral. We haven't done anything really stupid. A B+ for special teams.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'd probably give them a B. I'd like to see a few more return. I'm going to also throw in return yards on this, the returning of the ball. I think that's got to be a little bit better. At this point in time, you mentioned it, one blocked punt. They've got the one blocked extra point as well from the Old Dominion game that actually kind of turned out to be pretty important if you really want to look at it. So they've done some good things. I think, honestly, this would be higher. I didn't think Kai Kroger, Preston, had his best day Saturday. And we've talked about it. That's a situation where you can be a little bit better in those situations and I think help. And that was not that. I thought that hurt just a little bit.
In every single game, especially with an offense that's sputtering / struggling and a defense that's playing well, you're going to need your punter to go out there and do what Kai Kroger's done in the past. And he's been better this year, but we needed him a little bit more on Saturday. You're right.
Yeah, I mean, he's had a questionable game. This is according to the stats. 39.2 yards, 51.6 has been his average against Kentucky. We thought Kentucky was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
He was at 43 on Saturday, which, again, just in a big game like that, we know he can make a big impact.
But, Bill, all of this sets me up for this because while I was very excited that Maurice Brown, who was the walk-on who was awarded a scholarship, congratulations to him. More importantly, congratulations to his family. Whew, that's a big one. He blocked the punt. I was excited, but then my heart immediately went out to that LSU guy because that position, being the middle guy as the personal protector for a punt team, is the worst position in football. How do I know? I played it. It's terrible. Some young punk like Mo Brown, who's just excited to get a scholarship, his only job is to run as fast as he can into your chest. And you know what they do sometimes? Sometimes they don't just want to run into your chest. Sometimes they want to jump. They want to leap. They want to try and their hardest to block the kick. And Mo Brown doesn't understand the unwritten rules of that position. What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to act like you're running hard, and I'm supposed to act like I'm blocking you, and we go, and we both just put our chest on each other, tussle a little bit. Then I go and cover the punt, and you turn around, and you act like you're blocking me. Some dudes don't get the memo. Mo Brown didn't get the memo, and he actually wanted to block the punt, which was good for the Gamecocks. But I'm telling you, Bill, that is the worst. When somebody actually wants to play hard at that position. So I immediately went out to you, personal protector for LSU. I'm sorry about that because sometimes some people don't get the memo. You're not supposed to go hard every time. Or at least let me know when you're going hard this time. Or tell me that you're going to jump. Don't just embarrass me.
Signal
like
ahead. You coming back, going up in the air.
Oh, my God. It's the worst position. 10-yard head start, and all you do is just sit there and wait, and then he runs into your chest. And then if you back up, you know where that ball's going? Yeah.
Into your rear.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's going somewhere you don't want it to go.
Hour 2 on the way. Bill Gunner for Old Timey Meat Market, where we're already thinking ahead to the next tailgate. That's right. This coming weekend, 7:30 football game. You need to swing by Old Timey Meat Market and start picking up what you are going to cook out. Maybe you want to get a delicious box of hamburgers. At Old Timey Meat Market, they are handmade, and they are absolutely fantastic. They also have homemade hot dogs. They may have incredible hot dogs, and you need to get by and get those. Maybe you want to go something a little bit better. Maybe you want to go with some steaks this weekend since it's a late game and you want to have a nice afternoon lunch out there tailgating. The bacon wrapped fillets, absolutely perfect. And at Old Timey Meat Market, where the reason they stand out is because they make it a non-grocery store experience. It's because they want to know your name. They want to know what you like. They want to help you pick out that right meat, whether it's salmon, whether it's steak, whether it's pork, whether it's chicken. They want to find the right thing for you. So visit the South Congaree, St. Andrews Road, or the Lexington store. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
I-26 westbound there at exit 119, 2 right lanes are blocked. So approaching I-26 westbound, exit 119, you are definitely going to want to stay left. Fontaine Road at Two Notch Road, an accident there. Also 321 at Pine Ridge Drive in Lexington County. We have a report of a tie-up. And the weather going to be a little bit better. Some peaks of sun today when the kind of misty conditions phase out. Tomorrow, maybe just a couple showers. 85 for the high, 85 on Thursday and Friday as well. Game day, looking for a high of 86, overnight low of 65. Right now, it is 65 on the early game.
Up and at 'em, hour 2, as we start to put to bed the LSU game. Got some grades that we're getting into. We'll continue down that path with J.C. Shurburtt here this hour as we kind of wrap up. We'll look ahead to Akron, but let's get out to the phone lines quickly here. Steve wants to weigh in this morning on Gamecock football. Steve, how you doing? What's on your mind?
How y'all guys doing?
Good.
Good. First thing I want to say is this here. I'm asking all the fans to come outside tonight because I'll be back there again. Because, them boys played. And I take my hat off to the USC football team. Them young guys, they really, really played for us and for them. And I appreciate their effort. But I'm going to say this here, and this is my opinion. It's hard to beat two teams at one time. It's never heard of. But anyway, then I heard Brian Kelly was complaining about that block punt was illegal. He the last one to complain. He got him one. So he shouldn't speak on nothing. But anyway, my thing is this right here, and it's not a negative question for Preston. It seemed like to me, going into halftime, the defense could never get back on track when he went to that three-man rush. And that's, to me, you can't give no quarterback in the nation, Carter's a pro, that much time. I don't care if we got 14 people back there. Their receivers going to find a way to get open with that much time. And to me, that exploded our secondary, our corners and our safeties, and I guess we realized where they could throw the ball on us. They didn't realize that when we shooting that rush to them when they didn't have time to really get somebody open. To me, that just the defense never got back on track. I just want to press an opinion on that.
All right. Thank you for the phone call, Steve.
Appreciate it, Steve. Yeah, I agree with you. I felt like we were getting more pressure and playing more effectively with the four-man rush. I wonder if Clayton was trying to outthink the game and trying maybe to stay ahead of Brian Kelly, trying to throw a changeup when he didn't necessarily need to. Sometimes I wonder if Clayton does that, if he tries to do something that he doesn't necessarily do in order to preserve whatever he was doing. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think they were being very successful with the four-man front. It seemed like they went away from it a little bit too early. And you're right. I don't think they ever got back to it. I think that's a perfectly clear observation.
We will let's get into some more observations. I would say we'll get back into that observation, but we'll get into more observations here as we are joined, as we are each and every Tuesday, by the BigSpur.com's J.C. Shurburtt, who J.C. was almost, and it was still a tremendous weekend for the program as a whole, for everything, the athletic department showcasing Gamecock Park, for the program talking about the future and just everything. It was the fact they didn't get the win that would have been the cherry on the top. But before we get into the actual game, your thoughts on what this did for Shane Beamer's program and for the athletic department being able to kind of showcase Gamecock Park, showcase to the college football world what South Carolina has become over the last 10 years.
Oh, yeah, I think they put on quite a show, Bill. It was almost flawless. with the exception of one editorial I read in the Daily Gamecock where it was, and I don't know, I always hope everybody's safe and doing well, but it seemed like there were just some students complaining, and, it was a big article. People were making a big deal out of it, but that's what you get from the state of journalism and amateur journalism these days, I suppose. But it was flawless as far as the show goes. I think, Bill, we remember way back when other schools would ding Carolina in recruiting on not having an on-campus environment and stadium and all that. Well, just as far as the broadcast for game day goes, it looked as on-campus as any other place, with Williams-Brice in the background and some nature and tailgating at Gamecock Park. Darius Rucker gets up there and does wagon wheel. Dawn Staley was outstanding. I thought whoever the guy is that, and it was on the Gamecock Athletics Instagram page, that dressed up like ranch dressing. I don't know if you guys saw this dude.
That. What?
That was amazing. He dressed up like and I was like, how did that conversation go with your buddies? Because he'd been there since 2:30 a.m. It looked a little older than a student, but maybe not. And he was like, I just wanted to come here and spread the word about ranch and how much I love ranch. And I was like, wow, how did that conversation go? Did you call your buddies and say, hey, man, I got a great idea. Let me run this by you. I'm going to dress up like a bottle of ranch and get there at 2:30 a.m. and get on game day. And I was like, that's the most creative thing I've ever seen in my life. I loved it.
Or that idea came to a guy at about 12:30, sitting down at CB18 down there on the corner. I've seen that occur where people can be sitting in 5 points and become geniuses very quickly, only to realize 12 hours later, maybe that wasn't the best idea I've had in life.
Man, dude, I thought it was a great idea. Though I was like, man, that's awesome. I mean, everybody. Well, most people love ranch, and. But I'm like, and he's like, I'm just out here. He used the word awareness, spreading awareness. I was like, it was great. But I thought it was outstanding. I thought moving into the stadium before the game was great. You had Pat McAfee and Nick Saban on Friday doing a 25-minute interview from the field. I mean, they say it's an infomercial. They did, but I think the administration, the athletic department, deserves a ton of credit for just how they facilitated pulling this off in a big way. I can't say enough good about it. I can't say enough good about the Gamecock fans. I guess it is a pretty tough environment when it's not a night game, right? Mm-hmm. It could have been the loudest, just from looking at some field level video. The loudest noon game I've ever been to is Florida in 2005 when Spurrier beat Urban Meyer's first team. But I can't imagine that game in 2005 being as loud as that. There was some, like I said, low angle video from the field, and it was affecting the microphone. You hear when you talk loud in the microphone, there's that static on a couple of those plays. So hats off to the Gamecock Nation. Very disappointing loss, obviously. But as far as the showcase goes, which is really what matters in recruiting. Recruits don't, Nick Harbor made his official visit for a 48-7 loss to Georgia at noon. So recruits are really kind of more into the vibe and atmosphere and all that. And South Carolina was pretty amazing with that. And so far from what we've heard from the folks that visited, it made a big impact.
Real quick, you mentioned recruiting. What can you share? There were two particular recruits that I think stood out in the 2025 class that South Carolina is going to try and make a move on. Number one is the 5-star defensive end who is committed to Auburn, Jared Smith. Players like that don't just drive, I don't know how many hours it was, just to take in a football game after playing a high school game the night before. He's still committed to Auburn, but is that someone you pay a little bit more attention to now moving forward?
Yeah, I keep an eye on him and the kids that are committed to Florida State for sure. I don't know that I'd say Auburn's struggling. I think they're grumbling a little bit. There's always NIL that's a factor nowadays, especially when you're against another SEC school. But I thought that was a good sign. Shoot your shot and go from there. I mean, the kid's already committed to a home state school, so may as well, if he's interested, just give it a go. So I think that's a positive sign. I'm not making any predictions right now, but then there's the kid Kevin Wynn, the D tackle, which Carolina needs, and then Malik Clark, of course, Florida State commit. So I thought that was good. I thought they did a great job with the 2026 guys that were in, and that kind of thing makes an impact. Some of these guys that are here now, the Wendell Gregory's and Michael Smiths and Cam Pringle and Josiah. The groundwork was laid in 2022 when they came in for Tennessee, when they came in for A&M, even when they came in for Georgia. And so that's kind of how you recruit these days, because everybody signs in December. So your previous year helps with that next class, and I thought that was huge.
Real quick, about 2 minutes with you here, and then we'll hit to the next segment. But Darren Usher, the new
Usher, baby.
Usher, that's I'm stuck with that. I'm not exactly.
Yeah.
How would you rate his job so far in terms of helping get guys on campus for 2 of the first 3 games, the home games, and then with some of the games he's got coming up that'll actually be huge night games, that night atmosphere for Mississippi and Texas A&M?
Well, hopefully Mississippi's at night. I mean, it could be at 3:30, but
sure.
That was as good of a crowd of recruits for a game, especially a new kickoff that's been around here. So, as far as getting guys on campus, it looks like status quo, which is good. I like Darren. I think he's a cool guy. Obviously, a alum, and has a lot of experience in college football. Has been around, been on the West Coast, the East Coast, a place like Oregon that is no stranger to recruiting, and not just recruiting, but recruiting a lot of different places, which South Carolina does spot recruit a lot of different places. So I thought that if you're, I wasn't going to sit there and evaluate the guy, after one big weekend for a noon game, because I know how hard it is sometimes for high schoolers to get up and go. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I have a 19 and a 17-year-old here, and they don't like to get up in the morning on weekends, but especially after a football game. But they did, a good job, and so I think that's a positive sign moving forward, as South Carolina continues to try to build the program.
We'll get more into the actual game. Preston's got some defensive grades. JC, get out your professor hat. We're grading the defense when we come back, and each individual, the positions there. So we'll do that, give our grades there, and analyze also what we gave as offensive grades in the first hours we roll along. 7:12 on your Tuesday morning. JC Shurburtt joining us. Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen. It is the early game.
Hey guys, it's Preston for your broker, my broker, Benji Gessie at Buford Lending. Buford Lending is a true mortgage broker offering the widest variety of government mortgage programs and the best mortgage experience for clients through its state-of-the-art technology and record low interest rates. Their goal is to make your next mortgage experience in closing easier, cheaper, faster, and friendlier. Benji and his team are VA, FHA, and USDA government loan experts, and they offer competitive jumbo financing as well as conventional and construction lending. Benji has helped over 8,000 families experience the dream of homeownership. So shop your rate with Buford Lending today. Buford Lending specializes in DSCR and fix and flip financing. So call the good folks at Buford Lending at 843-524-2404. That's 843-524-2404.
And for your Tuesday morning out there on the highways, looking at an accident, Highway 321 near Pine Ridge Drive. Fontaine at Highway 1 or 2 Notch Road there's an accident there. And stay left if you are on I-26 westbound approaching exit 119 because an accident there has the 2 right lanes blocked. More wet weather should be making its way out at this point. Peaks of sun today, 80 for the high. 85 tomorrow with just a couple showers, and then back to cloudy conditions on Thursday, a high of 85. Just a little bit of scattered mist this morning. And right now it's 65 on 107.5 The Game.
Reminder, the Lawyer Lisa Special Teams Contest is back. If South Carolina scores a special teams touchdown this weekend, there is now $400 in the pot, and you could win it. Just go to 1075thegame.com and get registered. Doesn't matter if you're here in Columbia, if you're in Myrtle Beach, if you're in Florence, or somewhere else in this great state listening via our 1075 The Game app. Just go to the 1075thegame.com website, get registered, and if South Carolina scores a special teams touchdown, someone will pocket $400. And if they don't, well, guess what? Mississippi game, there'll be $500 in the pot. You see how this works. So go on to our website, 1075thegame.com, and get registered for the Lawyer Lisa Special Teams Contest right now, currently worth $400. So, JC, in the previous hour, we gave out our offensive grades. We gave out grades. Professor Thorne, one-time Teacher of the Year over at Blythewood High School, and just leading our youth. He took to the podium. And Preston, I'll let you give JC your grades so he understands what we have going on here.
All right, JC, here were our grades. We were graded per unit, and I went with, starting with the O-line, I went with a C-. The wide receivers, I upgraded my grade from a D to a C-. Running backs, I said a B+, but then I realized I was actually only grading Rocket, and so maybe that grade might need to be downgraded a little bit. Quarterbacks, I went with a C, and tight ends, I went with a C- for the whole unit. Offense as a whole with a C-.
Thoughts on that from Preston?
Well, I don't know. Really, they had some big plays. But a lot of folks want to take the big plays out, and I get it. Were they consistent offense? Probably not. You can't have 3 turnovers. I'd probably go C though, because I may be grading on a curve, Preston, because it's what I'm looking for from this offense is constant improvement, and I do think there were some things, a lot of things, especially up front, they did better against LSU than Kentucky. But yeah, I think it's totally fair. I get it. And, Rocket, the one thing that surprised me a little bit this year is that, and there's 2 schools of thought on this, is Rocket's getting the bulk of the carries. But I guess the opinion to back that up, or to why they do that, if you got Rocket Sanders, I guess you want to use him, right? So, he's probably, the other guys are pretty good, but he's next level. So, yeah, I think that's fair. I think that, this offense is still, like a lot of folks have said, a work in progress, and it'll continue to improve, hopefully, as we move forward. But I did think the O-line played probably its best game, just as far as, playing well enough to win and all that good stuff. I thought they showed a nice jump. Of course, I talked all week last week, LSU is not LSU on the D-line. But, you play Baker, the coordinator, he loves to dial up these exotic blitzes. It's hard, to kind of block those guys. But I thought they did an admirable job. But I don't really have much to disagree with there. My overall grade would probably be like a C, though, instead of the minus.
You're doing that for the first 3 games, right? The first quarter of the season.
No, I thought we were doing just the LSU.
No. We're interim grade. Sorry,
Bill, you're killing me.
That's my fault. I didn't specify that.
No. It's nobody's fault. No. Then there's nothing. Not a lot for me to disagree with there at all.
Yeah, we're taking first 3 games. I want to go back to something you brought up, and I think it's interesting because you said you were surprised too, and then as Preston said it with the running back room, he mentioned he did his grade and then looked at it and was like, well, wait, I'm only grading one player, not the running back room. You mentioned being surprised. I am too, that we haven't seen just a little more Oscar Attaway, that we haven't seen just a little more Juju McDowell. Attaway so far in the season has 5 carries. Juju has 5 carries. Attaway has 6. I get it that Rocket Sanders is dynamic and is going to be drafted likely and is this really good running back. Do you think there's a reason? Is he just that far ahead, or is it because in situations like Old Dominion and LSU, you just play your best player and try and win it? Is it just as simple as that, you think?
Yeah, I mean, they haven't really run a whole lot of plays on offense. And, when you have one game where the quarterback runs it 22 times, and let's be clear, they didn't plan on him running it 22 times. They didn't call 22 quarterback run plays. But then against LSU, getting Lenoris and Robbie both out there, it's kind of they eat carries a little bit. They like to run the jet sweep to Brown, so the backup running back or running backs, the stats probably aren't going to be there. I think this weekend's a golden opportunity to get those guys some carries, get them lathered up. But I think it's just that Rocket's been that good. Obviously, he's healthy, and when he's healthy, he's one of the best in the country. So, he doesn't have like Marcus Lattimore level carries, but the Gamecocks really have not run that many plays. I mean, it's just not been out after Old Dominion, and they haven't run it all that many. So, I think it's just more of a function of how good Rocket is. And we said it on this show. I said it all week with Jamie Bradford. That last week felt like a breakout game for Rocket, and it certainly was.
I just noticed this. As you were mentioning the number of plays that South Carolina has run. We talked about an identity going into the season. We'll stay on offense here for this segment and then transition to defense. But we've talked about an identity, establishing who you are. If I just asked you to ballpark what the run to pass percentage so far has been this season, JC, do you want to take a shot at that? You guys might know what this is, but do you guys have any idea what the run to pass percentage is so far?
It has to be like 3-1, I would think.
You want to take a ballpark guess real quick, Preston?
No.
It appears it is 70-30. I didn't realize this until JC brought it up, and I was just wondering. I was like, well, how many plays have they run? They've run 100. There is 132 carries on the season. There has been 58 passes, 190 plays run so far this year. Are you too surprised? I thought going into the season maybe 60-40, so I'm about 10% off both ways there. Are you too surprised that it's been, Preston, 7 is what does it appear, 70-30 in this?
No, I'm not surprised, and I'm actually in agreement with that. If that's going to be your identity, if you're going to, they've talked about being a ground and pound team while also trying to bring the wide receivers along. I'm not upset at that distribution of play calling.
JC, I think one thing that Shane Beamer, and if you want to stay with Dow Loggins after this year, I don't know. There's 9 games left. I think you're setting a tone for who your program is, not who your team is. Team's a one-year thing, and I don't know if Marcus Satterfield ever did that with Spencer Rattler last year. You knew what it was going to be. It was going to be passing. This feels like you're setting the tone for the future. And it's almost teaching your offensive line, hey, whoever comes here, you better be mean and physical because that's our brand of football.
Well, I mean, when you have a redshirt freshman quarterback, that's going to be kind of hopefully that's the way it is for the next couple of years. I would say I don't think that's going to be what South Carolina is. And I'll say this: keep in mind where Shane Beamer grew up, who his dad is, all that good stuff. And I want you to think about Virginia Tech and what they were on offense. And I believe this is kind of informed speculation, I guess. I think that's sort of his vision. If you remember Virginia Tech, in the 90s and 2000s. They ended up they would have Jim Druckenmiller at quarterback, statue in the pocket, right? Pro passer, that kind of guy. And then they go to a Michael Vick. Well, then they'd have a Tyrod Taylor. Well, then they'd have a Marcus Vick. Well, then they'd have this guy and that guy. And they won consistently, but you never – and they always had great backs, and they were always good in the run game and special teams and defense. But you never sat there and said, oh, they're a spread team, or oh, they're a power run team, or all that. It changed year to year. I think at South Carolina, where you're probably just not going to always get the type of quarterback you want, just because of the nature of the position these days and stuff like that. You know, you need to take advantage of what you got. So it doesn't make any sense to not run a dual threat guy, at least some. It doesn't make any sense to not be able to line up, spread them out, throw the ball when you got a talented passer. So I think that's the identity. When you hear the word multiple, you kind of think, well, there's no identity. I think the identity is going to be they are multiple, and they can beat you multiple ways. I mean, that's kind of the vision of it, because in any program, really, you have to, like, adapt to the personnel you have in a given year. So many things happen, and quarterback position is so diverse nowadays. So I think that's the vision there. But certainly this team, and as long as Lenore Sellers is the quarterback, I think it's going to be kind of like that. I will say this, though, Bill, with those stats. Robbie Ashford has played a whole lot, if you consider it's just 3 games. And you know, and people can debate this all they want. When he goes in, they basically are an 80% run team. And so I think maybe those numbers will be closer to your 60-40 had Sellers not had to miss time with injury the last 2 games.
803-404-6100. When we come back, we will play a sounder, and we will give away a pair of tickets to the Akron game this coming weekend, 7:30. So that'll be on the other side of this break when we come back. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen, and joined as always on a Tuesday morning by J.C. Shurburtt. It's the early game.
Preston here for our friends at Absolute Glass, the premier glass company of the Midlands, offering auto, business, and home glass repair. So if your glass is damaged, shattered, cracked, or broken, they can handle the job. If it's a cracked windshield, that's no problem. They'll come out to your location and replace it for you, usually for free, and they work directly with the insurance company to take away the headache. They'll come out to wherever you are, school, home, work, does not matter. Absolute Glass will take care of it for you. Now, if you're at home and you're looking to increase the value of your space, you can do that with new windows and mirrors, and Absolute Glass will take care of that for you too. Windows, mirrors, shower enclosures. Say it all the time. If you can see through it, Ray and Marianne at Absolute Glass can do it. So check them out online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com. That's online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com.
Still need to stay left at I-26 westbound at exit 119. The two right lanes are continuing to be blocked as they get things cleaned up from that accident. Cushman Drive at Two Notch Road, an accident there. Also Fontaine at Two Notch. I-20 westbound at the Two Notch Road exit, an accident there. Also I-26 eastbound at Bush River Road. Highway 378 at I-20 and at I-77. So very busy on Highway 378. Accidents both at I-20 and I-77. And Highway 601 near Leesburg Road, also an accident there.
Run to your phone and start dialing 803-404-6100. It's time to give away some Gamecocks football tickets.
Touchdown, Carolina.
Sponsored by Carolina Honda Powerhouse, your local Honda motorcycle, ATV, and side-by-side superstore. Online at carolinahonda.com.
All right, 803-404-6100. We got a pair of tickets to Saturday night 7:30 contest at Williams-Bright Stadium against Akron. I just looked at the weather report. I know it's rainy. It's actually, Jen, I apologize.
It's clearing.
It's clearing. Saturday looks awesome.
Oh, man, it's going to be a great day for a game.
Saturday is 8. The high is 86. You should be able to enjoy tailgating without breaking out into a massive sweat. Maybe even get the grill out there and then go to the game that night. And we'll talk with JC Sherbet a little bit about moving on to the Akron game now. We'll do caller number 4. I don't know why.
I can count. Yeah, that's about as high as you can
that was the highest I could get to.
Fair.
That was about as high as I could get to. Caller 4, you will be the winner.
No, we're not talking about feet and height.
That's right. 803-404-6100. Call in now. Win a pair of tickets to the Akron game Saturday night. We will give another pair away. I know we will have them throughout the week. We're also going to have some tickets starting tomorrow for a massive soccer match over at the Graveyard Friday night between Marshall and South Carolina. We'll get you more information on that. Tony Annan will join us on Friday morning to preview that. That's a massive match for his team. We'll talk more about that later on. But back to some football. And JC, all right, let's move forward here. We're not going to move. Preston and I are going to spend the next hour still kind of looking at the LSU game and giving some grades, but we only get you for 1 hour. So let's move forward to Saturday night and a game that South Carolina is a massive favorite. I think throughout history, at least my 42 years, when South Carolina's about a 4-touchdown favorite, even when the Steve Spurrier was here, very rarely did they come out and blow somebody out like we have seen Tennessee do, or like what we saw Clemson do against App State, or like we've seen Ole Miss do. Very rarely does that happen. But you kind of need to do it early on, get some guys out, let them rest with the bye week coming up, and get some of these younger guys some more experience.
Yeah, blowout games are very beneficial to your program because everybody gets to play. And I mean, Kentucky wasn't. I mean, they substituted pretty liberally at the end of Kentucky, but I mean, it's the SEC road game that was 10-6 in the third quarter. And you wanted to make sure. And then, of course, Saturday and the opener, there wasn't an opportunity. So there's an opportunity this weekend. And I'll say this, yeah, we've seen some lackluster type games, especially when Carolina's playing a decent team, and maybe Carolina's not all that good that year. But I'll remind everybody in 2022, and this is what this stretch reminds me of, except there's no South Carolina State on the schedule. After Carolina lost to Georgia in 2022, they came back, had kind of an iffy first half against Charlotte. They blew them out 56-20, then blew out SC State 50-10. I think that got everybody's confidence going heading up to Kentucky for that big road game. This week, I think it's as crazy as the schedule is when you look at what's ahead. This is coming at a good spot. You had a very physical, tough loss to LSU. You got a team coming in here you should beat thoroughly. Akron is not very good, especially on defense, especially trying to run the ball on offense. They can throw it a little bit. You have a chance to go in, get a big win, have everybody feeling good, and then you got a bye week before another huge game at home, and hopefully, I think, quite frankly, after last Saturday, Carolina sort of deserves the night game against a very good Ole Miss football team that will probably be undefeated coming in and ranked in the top 5 to 10. So, Yeah, it's coming at a nice time. I think, like we talked about, the carries for the running backs and stuff like that, it's a chance to get those guys going, chance to play some quarterbacks, some receivers, offensive linemen that are back, defensive backups, freshmen, because you have the redshirt rule where you can actually now play 5 games if one's a bowl and keep your redshirt. So, these games aren't going to, get a massive crowd for game day out there, but South Carolina fans have been showing up for them, and it is a night game, which is always fun, and first one of the year. And so I expect South Carolina to go out and flush that loss and play pretty well, for most of the game Saturday night.
Preston, you've been there on the field in situations like this where I think Arkansas, that was a road game. I don't remember who y'all followed that up with. I have to go back and look. Maybe you do, in 2001, but where you go into the next week and you just need – I think y'all had some games like that after Georgia, whether you won or lost, where you had to kind of bounce back after a very physical game.
Well, I think the placement of this game is really, really interesting because it's after, obviously, a heartbreaking, devastating loss, and then you have it against a bye week. And you always want to go into bye weeks with good vibes. You always want to go into there with a big win. Everybody scores. People on the sideline celebrating because the third-string guy gets in and scores a touchdown. It just brings the team together and gets that bad taste out of your mouth from the last week. So a big performance is really important for the players, the fan base also. We all feel good going into the bye week. So I always stress the week before the bye week as a very important game because you want to have high vibes in the locker room and around the team before you go into that bye week.
I know we're looking a little far ahead, but in the previous 3 seasons, some of South Carolina's biggest wins, 2 of them have come after a bye week. In 2021, in Shane Beamer's first year, it was that shocking, I think it was shocking that year, 40-17 drubbing of Florida after South Carolina had been at Texas A&M, and that was an awful game. Jason Brown only threw for 84 yards. South Carolina lost 44-14 in College Station. They got the bye week on October 30th and then beat Florida 40-17 the following week to really get that month of November going to get bowl eligible. In 2022, it was the win that JC just mentioned at Kentucky on the road that led to a bye week on October 15th that then led to the Texas A&M victory that looked so good and got South Carolina 5-2. Now, last year, Shane Beamer really should be 3-0 after bye weeks. I mean, really should, because the game last year after the bye week was Florida. And they lost that one that they shouldn't have, 41-39. So Shane's teams typically come off of bye weeks being very good, JC.
Yeah, that one was that one kind of similar to the LSU game, though. I think there's much, you can hold your head a little bit higher knowing LSU is infinitely better this year than Florida was last year. And Florida really at any point during the Billy Napier era. That one was tough, but South Carolina played well for the most part, especially on that offensive line last year in that game. As much as we talk about how crappy it was to lose, the offensive line probably had its best game of the year. And then because they moved Rashawn Lee out to tackle, right tackle. Unfortunately, he gets hurt, which was amazing. I about just died when that happened. And the line actually against Florida played one of its best football games. Now, Florida's not even close to what they once were on defense, but despite the loss and some defensive breakdowns, it was a solid. I mean, they played well. You didn't have one of those stinkers. So, I think as much as we talk about the schedule, and it is a bear. When you look at what's ahead, man, you got Ole Miss, who just happens to have one of their best teams ever. You go to Alabama, and Alabama looks like Alabama this year so far. And then you go to one of the cathedrals of college football in Oklahoma. I think we'll find out more about how exactly good or bad they are this weekend against Tennessee. But that's a tough stretch. Then you have 2 bye weeks this week, and then A&M comes to town, and they're really good, and they've owned you. And then after that, it's at Vandy, who had an unfortunate loss, but they're better. And then it's Missouri. Then it's Wofford. Wofford doesn't run triple option anymore. That should be a win. And then up to Clemson. So it does not – this is the break right here. This is kind of like, okay, you got Akron. You don't want to take anybody lightly because you always want to play well and, like Justin said, have good vibes. But they're they're a struggling bunch in Akron, Ohio right now. I have a respect for Joe Moorhead, their head coach, obviously, but he, South Carolina should win this game, go into bye week feeling good, and then take your shot at Ole Miss. Very curious to see. Ole Miss doesn't have a bye week. They play like 5 straight games before they come to Columbia, and I think they have either Alabama or LSU right afterward. And so, I'm curious to see how they do against Kentucky. That will be a very physical football game, and then they have to come to Columbia. So it sets up well. Ole Miss is very, very good. So you probably wouldn't call the Gamecocks the favorite.
Hey, let me hit a break. I just realized we rolled 10 seconds past it. We'll come right back and wrap up the second hour of the early game.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Yeah. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing, where for 30 years, Larry Leitner and the family, they have been the leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. It's that kind of history. The way they handle their customers, it is their assurance to you that they will get the job done in a timely and proper way that also services and gives you what you need for your facilities. Whether it's a high-rise or a hospital, manufacturing, or industrial, Mid-State Roofing designs and installs bonded systems with a protective guarantee that keeps your operation dry and running long into the future. Best part about this, Mid-State Roofing does this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you discover a leak, let Mid-State Roofing take a peek by giving them a phone call. They'll answer it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. An on-call technician or a Mid-State Roofing employee is there to help you out. 803-356-1919. Again, that's 803-356-1919. You can visit them on the web as well, midstateroofing.com. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you. 7:49. Apologize for that, JC. That was on me. I had stopped paying attention to the clock. So let's get back, let you finish what you were saying there just about the importance of the Akron game, getting the bye week, and then getting ready for that 3-game, especially that 3-game, because you're going to sandwich those between the bye weeks. So go ahead, your thoughts on, or finish up what you were trying to say there.
Oh, yeah. It's a tremendous challenge, and it's what you sign up for at the SEC. I mean, it's unfortunate they lost to LSU, but, all the talk about this being a make-or-break game, I mean, there's about 7 of those on the schedule this year. So I think you just move forward. I think you use the loss to catapult your team forward and play with confidence and clean up some of the stuff that went into that. Some of the stuff that went into losing to LSU had nothing to do with cleaning anything up, but unless you're in Birmingham. But I do think that this is coming at a good time for South Carolina. So
what do you look for? Number one, let me read you and Preston, because you guys know this is life. Let me read you these 2 texts. Nick weighs in. Nick sends in a text, JC and Preston. Sounds like Sellers could possibly be out past the Ole Miss game, depending on his ankle. Next text from Alan. Word is Sellers feels great. Says he's 100%. Could start Saturday. JC, I'll start with the game. We'll go to Preston because, again, Shane Beamer talking later today, 1 o'clock. You can hear it right here on 107.5 The Game. Which of those 2 is more likely? Sellers, possibly out. Sellers feels great. Could start Saturday.
Based on what I know now, and, I've learned not to speculate on injuries around here. I think the most likely scenario is they sit him this weekend. And honestly, because he's missed time the last 2 weeks, I'd probably sit him this weekend regardless because there's something bothered him. We got 2 games in a row where he's had to go in the locker room and then he just missed the second half. Tried to go but couldn't. So, and if it's an ankle, the best thing you can do for is to stay off of it. So I think most likely is Ashford starts this weekend and plays. They can win against Akron with him, and I think probably win pretty big. And then you have a bye week, and so that's a lot of time for Lenoris to get ready to come back for a big game with Ole Miss. I think that's the most likely scenario. Could he miss more time? Absolutely. You know how this thing goes, but I think that's the most likely thing right now.
Preston, would you go with that? If he can play, and I know there's varying degrees of ankle injuries and what it is, and we're speculating on that now, but a game like this, I feel like for him, even if it was 25 snaps, which I'd say is about a quarter and a half, to get that action just to continue to develop would be what I assume is pretty important for him.
Yeah, every snap is valuable for him. It's the risk-reward on the injury. If there is some things that are lingering, which this is obviously speculation, but if there's things that are lingering, I think you err on the side of getting him healthy. But I don't know what the injury is, and I don't know how severe it is or isn't. So I would save that just for a little bit later. But to your point, every snap for him is important.
JC, let me ask you this. Let's do completely reckless speculation. Do you go to a 2-quarterback system this week? And I know you said they could win pretty handily with Robbie Ashford, but just in terms of getting a better passer out there, do you maybe let Davis Bevel get in a little bit to sling it around when the game is still in the balance, say the first half?
It's a judgment call. I think the most important thing is, dial up some passes for Robbie Ashford. I mean, is he as good of a passer as Sellers? Certainly not Spencer Rattler, no. But if you kind of set him up, he can hit him. I mean, he's not. I know that the last 2 weeks it's been very conservative when he's been in. But heck, he had a big long pass play called back the other day. He hit that fine. He had that another 2-point conversion called back where he scrambled around and found Larvidan in the end zone. So I would let Ashford go and open the playbook a bit as much as you have to, and let him get the work, just because you never know. I mean, I think if Sellers was like 90%, 25 snaps or something's fine. But I'm not sure because he's like actually gone out of games the last 2 weeks and if it is an ankle, which I do think it is, you just got to stay off of it, man. I mean, that's just how it goes with those types of injuries. So I wouldn't aggravate it anymore because you're going to need him against Ole Miss, Alabama, Oklahoma, A&M, all those teams. So I wouldn't risk it.
JC, we always appreciate it every time you join us. Thank you for taking time out of your day, and look forward to catching up with you next week to evaluate the first third of the season. 4 games in after this weekend. Crazy to think.
Yeah. Hey, fellas, y'all have a great week, okay?
Appreciate you.
We'll come back. Hour 3 on the way. We'll give away another pair of tickets to South Carolina Akron, and we'll get into a few other things going on. Bryce Young's benched. Ooh, boy.
Preston here for the good folks at QC Kinetics. Tired of hip pain, shoulder pain, back pain, knee pain, got arthritis? Well, you can call the folks at QC Kinetics to get your help. We're talking about regenerative medicine, and the local medical professionals are here to help you. You can enhance your joints, improve mobility, and get back to doing the stuff you love without pain, without drugs, no surgery, and especially no downtime. Under the leadership of Medical Director Mr. Sean Cupp, QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in this exciting breakthrough using cellular therapies. They've got tens and thousands of satisfied clients. And so call them now for a free consultation. The number is 803-281-6860. The number is 803-281-6860. Again, QC Kinetics at 803-281-6860.
I-26 westbound at exit 119 still causing trouble, and you're wanting to stay left because the 2 right lanes are blocked. The left lane is blocked on I-20 westbound. They're at 277 due to a disabled vehicle, so stay right in that area. Cushman Drive at Two Notch Road, also I-20 eastbound at Highway 378. That would be at exit 61. I-20 westbound at Two Notch Road, an accident there. I-20 westbound before Broad River Road. So accidents, I-20 westbound, exit 65 and 74. 378 at I-77, 378 at I-20. Just be careful out there this morning if you would. The rain is going away.
Our number 3 here on the early game. This will be it. All right. Yep. Reffing stunk. I got it. Play calling was questionable. Defense struggled with tackling. It was a lot of things. A lot of things. It wasn't just one, but we're going to wrap it up this hour, and we're going to put it behind us.
We're going to wrap it up and put it, and I want to, JC made an interesting point, talking about the Florida game from last year.
You're right.
As opposed to the LSU game. They both had the thing in common where we had leads, but this goes back to something I was saying on Monday. Yes, we had we got out to a 17-point lead in the first quarter against LSU, but that is totally different than what I would consider blowing a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter against Florida. So when people are trying to say, like, oh, we had a 17-point lead, I always want to say that it was a different point in the ball game. A lead in the first quarter is not the same as having a lead where you can finish a game in the fourth quarter against Florida. So, yes, if you was to say that we choked away, whatever that game against Florida, I would agree. Against LSU, I think it's a totally different set of circumstances.
Okay, and that's totally fair. So we'll get our final thoughts out on the LSU game and move forward, getting ready for Akron, which I really am fascinated to see this game. Terrified because I've seen a lot of South Carolina football. And these are typically the games where you're like, okay, just go out and run the ball. Just you're an SEC team. They're not. You're pretty good. They're not. Just go out and get up 21-0 there, and then let's just put the game on cruise control where you never put it in question. Remember, South Carolina was a 20 to 21 point favorite against Old Dominion. And then I see normally a game like this at halftime where it's like 13-7. And we're like, are you kidding me? Are you being serious right now? Can't we just relax and see Dante Reno play a little bit of football out there? Let everybody else. So we'll get more into that because there is an element this week of like, not you expect them to win, but like go take care of your business. Somebody show them game film of what Tennessee just did to Kent State.
Yes.
Like,
to quote Lou Holtz, this doesn't have to be close.
Right.
We're not under obligation for this one to be close. And also, we don't want to show up on the early games. At least we ain't.
Exactly.
Check donation board.
Right.
And join the masses. We don't want to join Notre Dame or
Mississippi
State. We don't want to join any of those crews who've made donations. So let's stay out of that whole business.
So we'll turn our attention more toward that game and what we expect and what we want to see coming up tomorrow. And obviously we'll play some Shane Beamer tomorrow, but right now focused on kind of final thoughts from the LSU game. So go ahead. This is kind of your purge hour.
Let's finish
If you want to just go off on the refs, if you just get it out of your system.
Dude. And again, as I stated in the 6 o'clock hour, after today, we're going to put this game to bed. Unless...
No. There's a level of being able to put it to bed for the week, but then reevaluate, say, going into the bye week in October.
Yes.
Or we will bring this back up next week as we really analyze the first month. I know the Old Dominion game was August 31st, but for purposes of moving on to this game goes to bed for this week at 9 a.m.
Until things go really well in the season, then we say, man, what would have happened?
We may be bringing it up the week after Oklahoma being like, see, we've got this one loss here. We've defeated Alabama on the road, Mississippi at home, back-to-back top 10 victories. We just cleared out Oklahoma.
I mean, we're looking at that LSU game was the difference between us being the 11 seed in the playoffs or being a
4 seed.
See? So when it can come back up. It can.
You can see we're already moving on a little bit. We're getting happier and happier and happier. 803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in on.
But you don't have to. You can purge this hour.
Purge. Yeah, get it out. Get it out of your system. Rail against the referees. Rail against if you want to go against play calling. Rail against Brian Kelly. Whatever it is that makes you just feel better, get it out of your system now. Don't take it out on the kids, the animals, the significant other or coworkers. That seems really unfair to all of them. We will get some defensive grades going here coming up in the next segment. We have not done that. We've given our offensive grades, and we'll revisit that in the next segment as well. But some other things from just kind of around the sporting world, and we'll start up in Charlotte, whereas I like to call them, the Charlotte Panthers are now benching Bryce Young for Andy Dalton.
Charlotte's a nice city. Don't do that to Charlotte. They're the David Tepper Panthers. They're the Tepper Panthers. That's who they are.
The Tepper Panthers, okay.
We're just going to give them straightly because he owns them. We're not going to put that on our sister city up there in Charlotte. It's the Tepper Panthers. And we told you for a long time that this guy is going to run this team organization into the ground. And he's doing a good job. That was his job. He's succeeding in a wildly successful fashion. Yeah. Bryce Young got benched. I don't think this is possibly an indictment on Bryce Young, maybe, but it's really hard to judge Bryce when he was thrown into a totally dysfunctional organization. They were dysfunctional from the fact that they even drafted Bryce. Mm-hmm. Some people would say dysfunctional from the fact that they fired their coach. Only to not hire the interim coach who'd done so well, only to hire a coach who they then fired 11 games later. Yeah. Nothing has been solid or successful up there. So it's a tough situation. Do I think Bryce is the answer? No, but hopefully Bryce can get off and maybe get his career to another start in another place. Well, we will continue to talk about that as we kind of go along this morning. But, yeah, you hope the one thing you hope, whether he's good or bad, is irrelevant to me. I'm not pulling for or against Bryce Young. But I just hope this isn't the one that kills his confidence. Like, you hope – I mean, look, Sam Darnold, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance was the number 3 pick. I'm thinking of guys, top 3, top 4, top 5 quarterbacks who went somewhere, just disastrous situations that basically ruined anything that they could ever do. And I don't know if going to San Francisco for Trey Lance was disastrous, but obviously I think he's now in Dallas is what we've assumed. Like, not good. Not good for him. But we'll continue to talk about that. 803-404-6100. Let's get out to the phone lines. Casey wants to weigh in on the LSU game. Casey, how you doing this morning? What's on your mind?
Well, fellas, I hope y'all are too. I've thought a lot about the game, and I kind of just want to give my final statement about and say this. We were the better team that day. I believe that in my heart. That being said, LSU is not the team that they normally are. They're not one of those elite programs at the moment. So how they fare the rest of the season probably won't make us look much better, but we are a really good team, and I think that we're going to make a lot of teams struggle. We just got to keep our head high and let that one sting. But that's okay, because that's South Carolina football. I don't know what people are surprised about. I've been a Carolina fan for a long time, and this is par for the course if you're a Gamecock fan. But I think we're on the trajectory to something better. You got to be careful and not slip up and let losses like this sting and continue to sting so long that we can't get past it. And I think that could very easily happen because, well, I've been a Gamecock fan a long time, and those things tend to happen. But we're a great team. I love listening to y'all, and I can't wait to listen. Thanks.
Preston, you've been there, kind of what he's talking about, and understand better than I ever will about not letting a game like this affect you for the next game.
Yeah, they always say don't let yesterday beat you tomorrow, or however you want to phrase it. Don't lose the game twice. So, any coach.
It feels like that was the perfect Lou Holtz. Yeah,
you can do anything that you. Yeah, I have a bunch of Lou Holtz always just walking around with me every single day. Yeah, you don't want to do that. I don't think this team will. Shane has proven that he's able to get this team focused and refocused because we've seen them take some really – I don't know if we've seen them take a heartbreaking loss like this, but we've seen them have some poor performances in which they've rebounded. So this is maybe a new territory for them, and I'm pretty confident Shane will have them ready to go.
803-404-6100, back to the phone lines. Ricky wants to weigh in. Ricky, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing well. How about you guys?
Doing good.
All right. I just want to say, man, hell of an effort by the team this week. Very proud of those guys and the effort they put forth. I just want to hit on two things real quick. Never really saw Brian Kelly that vocal in regards to, a play before. And to me, it sounded kind of fishy, like he was trying to beat Beamer to the league office. There's a lot of headlines around that. But I also want to talk about, down the stretch, hell of an effort put forth by our defensive line. But on the back end of things, I think where we started to come unfold was where we had some plays, by our corners like O.D. Fortune and safety DQ Smith, where those guys were able to stretch it down the field and make big plays when they needed to happen. But just going forward, I think there definitely needs to be a little bit more emphasis on the play of those guys if we're going to be out there contending week to week with this hell of a schedule we got in front of us.
Appreciate the call. Somebody did mention that Brian, even though we did not have the most sun, he still managed to turn a different shade of purple. He was going for purplish red as the game was going on. I thought his head was going to explode a few times on the sidelines. To your point about the DBs, I think that's why I'm curious as to why we maybe didn't stay with the four-man front a little bit more to try and get the ball out of Garrett Nussmeier's hands a little bit quicker, to not put some pressure on those DBs. Because I think after 3 games, we're starting to see that that's probably there's a couple of weaknesses of the defense, I think, at safety and DQ Smith, and then the other corner, which we kind of knew coming into the season. Those are some problem areas for the defense.
803-404-6100. We'll get into that defense a little bit. We'll give our grades. How have they done through the first quarter of the season? We'll talk about that when we come back. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen. It's the early game. Bill Gunner for Zero-Res Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning. Don't let these game days take a toll on your home this season. Let's be honest. Some of you probably threw some drinks, maybe spilled some dips this past weekend while watching that South Carolina LSU game at home. And now your carpet, your rugs, your tile, your upholstery, they're all a little dirty. Let Zero-Res Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning handle those nasty spills with their patented cleaning system that gets your home surfaces insanely clean without leaving behind any soapy residue. Zero residue means your surfaces stay cleaner longer. And for a limited time, you can take advantage of the Zero-Res Fall Savings Event. Get 20% off all cleaning services. That's 20% off carpets, air ducts, area rugs, and more when you mention my name, Bill Gunner, at 107.5 The Game. You can schedule online, ZeroResColumbia.com, or give them a phone call, 803-262-4020. Again, mention me, Bill Gunner, at 107.5 The Game, and get 20% off all cleaning. Zero-Res, spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean.
I-26 westbound there at exit 119. The right lane is currently blocked, so continue to try to stay left there. Also, Cushman at Two Notch Road, an accident. I-20 eastbound at exit 61, still working that earlier tie-up. I-20 westbound at exit 73 and 74, also at exit 65. So a series of accidents there between exit 65 and 74 on I-20 westbound. I-26 eastbound at Bush River Road, Highway 378 at I-20 and I-77. Be careful out there.
We really, really, really do not have far to go for message board mayhem, and I'll give you a few examples of that in just a second. But let me remind you, there's only a few craft beer cards left. You can spend $30 at 12 different craft beer locations. That's a $360 value for just $79. You can purchase a craft beer card for just $79. Go to 1075thegame.com and click on Sweet Deals. There's only a few of these craft beer cards left, and if you enjoy a good craft beer or two on game days, well, you need to go purchase yourself one. $79 is all it costs, and it's $30 at 12 different craft beer locations for a $360 value. Go to 1075thegame.com, click on Sweet Deals, and purchase yourself one today. I tell you what, we should really have a wheel that we spin now on message board mayhem, because as I look here, a couple different ways to go. Would you like to go Florida, or have we just dug them, just thrown them and put them in the ground too much, or would you like to go on the Mississippi State path?
We've done Florida enough. Let's see what's going down in Vegas.
Let's just check where Saturday's whipping, which I hate to say is what Mississippi State got for their beating by Toledo, has led to already discussion. 2 games in, Preston Thorne, Barry Odom.
Hey, they're undefeated, I believe. UNLV off to a 3-0 start, I believe.
Barry Odom, he might be very happy. They're running that Brandon. I think it's Brennan Marion is the offense coordinator. Is running that go offense. I think when Dow Loggins got hired, we looked at that. I think you and I looked at that offense just a little bit. But yeah, 2 games in, 3 games in, 1 loss to Toledo, and the Mississippi State fans have turned on Jeff Levy and now saying we need a splash hire, an exciting offense, which
I thought that was.
Yeah, but they're okay.
Listen, man, that's gonna be a tough place to fill, right? Because the shadow of the Pirate is always looming over, and if you can't, no matter what you do, if you're not going to be as funny or as personable as Leach, it's probably just they're not going to want you. So somebody's going to have to go in there and win.
A couple people weighing in on this. Levy, again, 3 games in. 3 games in. Now they've lost. They did lose also kind of an ugly one to Arizona State. So
they're also very good this year.
Arizona State looks like they may be solid.
Right.
Yes. They came back and beat Texas State, and actually had a really good game last Thursday night. But one poster says Levy is toast. Good coaches don't lose games like that. Another said it's one thing to lose to an FBS team. To get blown out at home, just mind-boggling. I don't know how a team and a coach can come back from that. Get 3 games in. Another poster, they don't. And we don't need to overcomplicate it. If we lost 45-42 on a last-second field goal, it would be bad, but at least Levy's side would have held up their end, and the side we all knew would stink is what buried us. But we got murdered on both sides.
Okay, I do appreciate that, Cope, because it's like, hey, we felt like we was going to score some points this year. We knew we were going to be in from some shootouts, and what they're saying is that neither one of those things happened. I get it.
803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in. And I'll give you one more just because you get the angry people. And then you get this person. I'm not suggesting we have the next Saban, but I believe his first loss at Alabama was to Louisiana Monroe. Or his first team lost to Louisiana Monroe. So there is that that one person gets in there and stands up for his coach.
Somebody has to bring some objectivity.
Saban lost to Louisiana Monroe. Jeff Levy lost to Toledo. See how they correspond?
Yeah, the idea of saying, like, good coaches don't lose those games. No, they actually do. Good coaches lose these types of games not often. You just don't want to make a habit of it, but it does happen on occasion.
There you go. 803-404-6100 is how you can weigh in if you want to do so this morning. Let's get to some defensive grades here as it pertains. We've done the offense. Real quick. Let's run back over our offensive grades. You had?
Offensive grade, O-line, C-. Wide receivers, C-. Running backs, B+, except I realized I might have made a mistake. I only graded one of the papers in the room. I graded Rocket's paper. I didn't grade the whole rooms. Quarterback, I had a C. Tight ends, a C-. Offense, C- overall. Dow Loggins with a C-.
Okay, and I went quarterback, so Sellers and Ashford at a C. Running back, C+. Tight end, C+. Wide receiver, C+. And I really would like to give the wide receivers. I think they have been more consistent than I thought. There was some drops in the opener, but I really think you look at what Mazeo Bennett has done. I think he is coming into his own as the next great South Carolina wide receiver. I really, really like Vandravius Jacobs, but I would like to see him get more snaps. He only got 29 snaps on Saturday. He's a guy, as we saw at the very end of the game, that can make a play and maybe turn it into something bigger. And I personally would like to see Vandravius Jacobs get a few more plays here and there on the season, a chance to showcase that speed for him and what he's capable of doing. And then Jared Brown, I think, has been fairly consistent so far this year. He did have a few drops and seemed to struggle a little bit in the Old Dominion game, but I thought he's made some nice plays. I like the way they've incorporated him on some end arounds. Again, to me, Brown, Jacobs, and Bennett, by the way, in terms of receiving yards, Vandravius Jacobs has 3 catches this year for 90 yards. He's the guy he's got the longest catch of the year at 41. Brown's got 39, and Bennett's got a 32-yarder. Michael Smith's also got a 36-yarder. To finish this, because this also goes to my offense coordinator, I think you got to incorporate those guys. You've got 4 pass catchers. And let me just say this, too. All 3 of those wide receivers, Brown, Jacobs, and Bennett, should be back. Brown's the one question mark there. Should be back next year. And then Michael Smith at tight end. You've got a group of pass catchers that Mike Furry, I think, can work with. And next year, as you see the development of Nick Harbor and those guys, I like. But let's get to also, I've got tight end, so C+, C+. Offensive line, C. Look, they're getting better. They've kind of gone from an F to a D to a C. We're working our way a little bit better. Offensive coordinator, I gave a C to earlier as well.
Also, I would so for Dow Loggins, I think his grade is because you look at it on Dow Loggins' first drive, A+.
Okay.
His first drives are always very well scripted. They're well executed. After that is where the questions start and the adjustments have to be made.
Let's go to the defense. What do you got?
All right, let's go with the defense. Starting off with my guys, the high point. I can't be prouder to watch this group of young men be out there running around like a pack of wild dogs. The defensive line, I'm going to give both groups, the ends and the tackles, A's.
Okay.
Both of them get A's. They're both playing extremely well. We've seen Kyle Kennard come provide leadership as a transfer. Dylan Stewart's been a pleasant surprise to the nation, and definitely for us, he's been great. Inside, they've been awesome. Both sides get the A's. Only reason I can't give them A+ is because they did get tampered down a little bit against the LSU first-round draft picks. That's the only reason they don't get A+, but they were very well, especially early. Both sides give an A.
Got B+ for both. I got B+ for both, and it's because
this is where you could also say that the teacher's biased.
It's a little biased, yeah. Loving on the student. Maybe the student is actually a relative or something. Totally understand that. Yeah, they've been. I mean, look, the only reason I don't give them is kind of I dock half a point there or whatever. I wasn't going to give A+. It was going to end at A's, so I just take them down to a B+. And you're right. It's because of the LSU game in particular where they actually went against a legitimate offensive line, and I thought they struggled a little bit in that particular game. So we'll have to kind of see where it kind of goes from there. But B+ is linebackers.
Linebackers, give me a B. Give me a B as a group. I think the group has played well. I'm really impressed with the 2 transfers that have come in, Bengali and
Demetrius.
And Demetrius Knight, yes. which is interesting. He's wearing a little neckband.
Or is there like a scarf?
I don't know what that
Old
is.
man.
He has a handkerchief.
Yeah, that's kind of, yeah, there you go.
But they have definitely provided a lot of speed and side-to-side on play to back up Debo and allow Debo to be more aggressive forward. So I'm going to give that group as a unit a B.
I'm going B+. Debo Williams has been fantastic this year, I think. 19 tackles on the season. The other guy is not the transfer, though. It's Bam Martin-Scott.
I forgot
Bam Martin-Scott has been very, very good this year, and he made some big plays on Saturday. Really like watching him. He's got the lone sack for the linebackers. He's got half of a sack for 6 yards there. And then Demetrius Knight. Your top 4 tacklers right now are Nick Eamon-Warrior is the top one, Debo Williams, Bam Martin-Scott, and Demetrius Knight Jr. I assume that's a good thing when your linebackers are in there leading the way on tackles, because that means the defensive line's doing its job and the linebackers are flowing to the ball.
Yeah, they're playing well. And like I said, we were told before this year that we were upgrading team speed, and we've seen that play out in these 3 games.
Bengali Kamara, 7 tackles on the season so far. And again, they've built some depth. Demetrius Knight, I just mentioned him, 12 tackles on the season. 10 of them, by the way, unassisted. 15 unassisted for Debo Williams as well.
Take that, Jason Henderson.
That's exactly.
We don't do a lot of those assisted tackles around here.
By the way, my class had a prize box. There were certain players that get to go. Kyle Kennard and Dylan Stewart both sent to the prize box. Both sent them there. And I sent 3 of the linebackers, Debo Williams, Demetrius Knight, and Bam Martin-Scott got to go to the prize box.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Did you have enough prizes for everybody?
We got a big old prize box. There's a whole lot of stuff in that prize box accumulated from taking from other kids over the years, especially these last few defenses I watched where I had to take their prizes. That takes us to the secondary. I don't know if you broke it down into corners and safeties. How you did that?
I was thinking about that because even if you try to break it down into corners and secondary, you still run into the same problem.
Okay.
Half are playing really good, the other half not so great.
Exactly.
So, overall, I'm going to settle, and this is going to be as rounding up. I'm going to round up to a B.
Okay. All right.
I'm going to round up to a B, and that's taking everybody and all sides into account. Highs, obviously, Nick Eamon-Warrior has been phenomenal at his position. His counterpart, not so good. Same thing with the cornerbacks. I think O'Donnell Fortune has been good, trying to figure out who's going to be the next person. Maybe the swing that may have rounded it up was Jalen Kilgore.
Okay. All right. I'm good with that. Look, I think the corners, it is interesting that you have all these guys in the stats, and you see Nick Eamon-Warrior up there and Kilgore and O'Donnell Fortune really as 3 of your top 6 tacklers. The other 3 again were the linebackers. I think those guys have been very, very good so far. Then it takes a while to get down. DQ Smith has just 7 tackles on the season and 2 pass breakups. Then you go even further down. Judge Collier, maybe this is a good thing. He's only got 4 tackles on the season. He has a tackle for loss on the season. He's got 1 breakup. Maybe that's a thing where you look at it and say, because we haven't heard his name, he's doing better than we expected. And then Vakari Swain so far, 1 sack for 12 yards, 3 tackles. I tend to give them a B right now because I didn't want to punish them for what I thought. I feel like I'm holding dislike for DQ Smith for some stuff. And I feel like I shouldn't hold that against the whole group.
Every year, every fan base finds a DB that you dislike, rightfully or wrongfully, and unfortunately, DQ Smith, I think, is falling into that category.
Well, for final thoughts on that and move on as we wrap up the LSU game here, hour 3. Here it's the early game. Bill Gunner for Love Chevrolet, where we have gone from the lazy days and spontaneous adventures of the summer to soccer practices, dance recitals, to football practices, to fall baseball and school. Everything is back in session, and at Love Chevrolet, it never goes out of session. All those incredible deals, they're always there. That 14 acres of brand new Chevys, it's always there, and it's this time of year that it gets even better, though. Right now, the amazing savings are taking place, and the Love Chevrolet lot, 14 acres, is chock full of brand new Tahoes, Suburbans, and the totally redesigned Chevy Traverse. It's a bolder, exterior design, turbocharged V6, and best in-class cargo area. You need to get out to Love Chevrolet. I-26 in Harbison, between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park. Talk to that incredible sales staff. Check out those great deals and visit and find that next great vehicle for you. Together, let's drive.
Very busy out there on the highways this morning. Broad River Road at I-20, accident I-26 eastbound at Bush River Road. I-20 westbound, exit 65. Also, there's an accident there, and then it exits I-20 westbound at exit 73. The right lane is blocked. Trying to group them together. It's not working really well. I-20 eastbound at Highway 378. I-26 eastbound, left lane is currently blocked. I-26 westbound there at exit 119. The right lane is blocked. I-26 eastbound there at Bush River Road. We have a report of an accident there. Just crazy busy this morning. Roads are clear. Looking for a high today of 80 with some sunshine popping out. Maybe a couple showers tomorrow and 85.
Rolling along here, 8:36, and we will give you a chance to win a pair of tickets coming up here in just a few minutes to the South Carolina Akron game. Gamecocks a 4-touchdown underdog. Okay, we'll discuss that later this week because, oh dear. I want to remind you, Gamecock Central takes over Firehouse Subs out in Lexington, Jen and I's side of town, 109 Old Chapin Road in Lexington from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. today. It'll be right next to the flight deck. So come on out, visit with Wes and Tyler and Chris and all the people. Gamecock Central taking over the Firehouse Subs, 109 Old Chapin Road in Lexington from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. today, right next to the flight deck. Let's get out to the phone lines real quick. Now, we told you, purge it. Get rid of it this hour. If you've got a conspiracy theory, if you're not happy with Dow Loggins, if you didn't think Robbie Ashford did something right, or if something is bothering you, let's get rid of it today and move on to Akron tomorrow. Richard wants to weigh in. He's got a conspiracy theory with the referees. What do you got, Richard?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Going on.
Hey, I just wanted to say I think that there is a conspiracy theory with the refs and just simply not wanting South Carolina to beat LSU. If you remember back last time LSU came to town, the perfect form, open field, shoulder tackle that the ref put on Steven Garcia, I think there's just proof behind it that they just don't simply want South Carolina to beat them.
You may be right. You may be onto something. There's nothing we can say that can deny your point.
Watch till next year, and we'll see what happens in next year's game, right?
I agree with you.
Might be onto something. Now, that's the good thing about conspiracy theories, because you can always find something to prove your theory. And this point, we did get a quarterback knocked down.
Once is a coincidence. Mm-hmm. Once is a coincidence. Second time is what?
Mm-hmm.
No longer a coincidence, I believe.
Correct.
I'm with you.
I got one more question for you.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Which one do you think stings worse, waking up Sunday as a South Carolina fan or waking up Monday as a Cowboys fan?
Didn't the Cowboys have legitimate Super Bowl aspirations?
They do every year, so they think.
Well, they do till the playoffs.
Okay. Okay. All right. Did I say underdog, by the way?
Yes.
Did I, Richard? Did I say underdog? 4-touchdown favorite. 4-touchdown favorite.
Yeah.
I don't know. I apologize. I didn't. Yeah, South Carolina's a 28-point favorite. Hey, Richard, thank you for the phone call this morning. Appreciate it. 4-touchdown favorite. I'm sorry. Maybe I meant to say Akron.
I will say this, and I'm not sure what the temperature was in the stadium. I think they might have been a little bit too nervous. But I've seen videos of the New Orleans fans walking out of Dallas Stadium.
Oh dear.
And man, they were having a party. I mean, who that nation was in Jerry World for sure. So I don't know what the Baton Rouge folks, I don't know how they left the stadium. I think they probably just left and were quiet to get out of town with that win. But New Orleans Saints fans let everybody know that they were in town.
With their trumpets and everything probably playing.
Who that nation was definitely there.
Mm-hmm. When the Saints go marching in, probably got played on the way out by the Saints so that all the Cowboys could hear it. Let me ask you this. Papa Joe weighs in on the text line. And I think this is a very good question, however he says. I'm going to say, can two things be correct at the same time? Papa Joe says, worst loss of the Beamer era. Also, the best game of the Beamer era at the same time. Heartbreaking because all indications were to win this game. They stole it from us. We should not have given them so many opportunities. Can two things like that be right at the same time? Now, I don't agree with it, and I'll tell you why in a second, but can you understand where he's going or why he says that?
I can see where he's going. Those are definitely justifiable. I don't agree with it being the worst loss, but definitely the most heartbreaking loss of the era for sure, in my opinion. And, there was some questionable, maybe / bad false calls, but also we've seen that they had plenty of opportunities to win the game.
I'm going to steal a little bit from John Whittle and the BigSpur.com here on this, but I want to read you. John has put this out, and I think this is very interesting because I don't know what it means or what it doesn't mean, Preston Thorne. But according to John Whittle, the Southeastern Conference hired 13 new officials into the league this season. 13 new officials. The game at Williams-Brice on Saturday had 9 total officials, including the replay official, and 4 of them were officiating their first SEC contest. Mind you, on a weekend where there were only I believe, correct me if I'm wrong on this, there were only 3 conference games. Texas A&M in Florida, South Carolina, LSU, Georgia, and obviously Kentucky. Somebody can correct me if I'm missing one somewhere. 3 conference games. This is a big game. What do you think about having first-time SEC officials in a game like this? Let's purge everything.
Nobody wants to work. You see Greg Sankey calling people like, come on, man, can you just come in? And they're like,
man,
nah.
He called out, I'm going to need you to head on over to Columbia. I know you're a first-timer and all.
Yeah, you don't want people.
And it was 4 new officials on the same crew this weekend.
Yeah, you don't want that. And obviously, like anything else, like Lenora Sellers, like whoever else, the more games you call, the better you'll get. So there's a possibility that maybe that ref who, I don't know if the one that threw that call on Kennard, if he was a rookie or if he was a fresh, but maybe you're nervous and you see something happen and you just throw a flag because you're not experienced or seasoned enough in the way the games go. We had Justin Mackey here. It might be another time to get him in talking about the pressures of being an official. And something I want to talk about tomorrow, we'll get into all of this, but like, it's not easy. Those dudes are running very fast. Things are happening. And I didn't know that about that, but that does make a lot of sense. If this is their first games, officiating a game of this magnitude, of this speed, of this intensity, there are more opportunities for people to mess up.
I don't know what it. Like you said, I've officiated coaches pitch baseball, which that's not hard to officiate. It's hard to officiate. It's hard to deal with the people outside, the parents. They're the ones that. But I don't know what that means, and I'd be interested, 803-404-6100, how people take that when you hear that there were 4 new officials. Look, I don't think the officiating beat South Carolina. South Carolina had this game. And they made some dumb mistakes that could have won this game. With that being said, officiating did take at least 10 points off of the board, probably 10. South Carolina themselves took 7 points off of the board with that, or at least 3, I should say, with that Lenora Sellers interception down there. So there are things that happened in this game both ways. I don't think it was overly one-sided. I thought South Carolina got away with some stuff. I'll be honest. I just don't have the eye for it to go back and rewatch a game and go, oh, they held every play. Preston, you might be able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, well, you can call something on any play, but I just say that, yes, that is something I would look into about that, because from a staffing perspective, if there's not a lot of SEC games, you would think you would deploy your more seasoned officials to all of those games, but I don't know.
Yeah, again, what I feel like is that you never know how it's going to play out, but they definitely took 7 off the board. That would have clinched the game. The long pass to Delvon Campbell, I'm just going to assume. I'm just going to assume that Alex Herrera has no problem, boots it through, and there's 3. Those are the 10 points I reference, and so it is what it is. 803-404-6100.
I just can't picture Grace Sankey just, come on, please go work the game. We need, and the dude's like, I don't work till next week.
Yeah,
it's not on my schedule, man.
Yeah, I told you I was with family this weekend. It's a family weekend. 803-404-6100. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the Tuesday edition of the early game. Bill Gunner for the Ecton Law Firm. Let me ask you something. Are tax troubles weighing you down? Are they bothering you? Are they keeping you up at night? Is this something that you just are really bothered by? If so, it's time to call the professionals, John Ecton and his team. They know exactly how to handle tax issues with the IRS and get you out of any issues. So give them a phone call today, and it starts with a free consultation, 803-771-9800. They have a local team dedicated to resolving your income or business tax issues for good. Now, whether you're here in Columbia, Florence, Myrtle Beach, somewhere else in this great state, listening on the 107.5 The Game app, it doesn't matter. John Ecton and his team is ready to help you. Call today and start the free consultation. 803-771-9800. They're ready to offer you the peace of mind that you deserve. So give them a phone call. Get that free consultation. Let them help you navigate the IRS maze. 803-771-9800. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing, where owner-founder Larry Leitner and his team have been the leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry for nearly 30 years. They know exactly what they're doing, and one of the reasons that makes them stand out and why they've been the leader is because they are there to help you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It doesn't matter. It could be 3 a.m. It could be 6 a.m. If you call Mid-State Roofing, if you discover a leak and you call Mid-State Roofing, you will speak with either an on-call technician or a Mid-State Roofing employee who will help you maintain and get that roof back in working order, because let's be honest, you want to keep your operation dry and running long into the future, and Mid-State Roofing wants to do that with you. So give them a phone call, 803-356-1919. Again, that's 803-356-1919. You can call them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mid-State Roofing is there to help you. So if you've got a leak, let Mid-State Roofing take a peek.
Run to your phone and start dialing 803-404-6100. It's time to give away some Gamecocks football tickets.
Touchdown, Carolina.
Sponsored by Carolina Honda Powerhouse, your local Honda motorcycle, ATV, and side-by-side superstore. Online at carolinahonda.com.
803-404-6100. We'll take caller 7. Caller 7 this morning. You got to have a little skill to figure out when exactly you're calling. Can you wait for the 1, 2, 3? When are you dialing your numbers? Caller 7 there wins a pair of tickets to the South Carolina Akron game Saturday night, 7:30, Williams-Brice Stadium. You can hear it right here on 107.5 The Game. And, of course, as always, we'll get you going around 2:30 on Saturday live from the Sound and Images party lot over there on Bluff Road, where I believe this week it'll be Terry and Tyler getting you ready at 2:30 with our coverage. And as we mentioned, 86 degrees expected to be the high. Should be a lot of fun. And tomorrow, nice. Preston Thorne will really turn our attention, because this game, it's not going to have the pizzazz. It's not going to have the energy. That doesn't mean Preston Thorne and I can't incite a rivalry with Akron.
We're going to find it. We're still working. We're doing our research. We're doing our opposition research.
We're digging a little bit, yeah.
We will find it.
We're digging a little bit. We're going to have to go through a few other sports and bring them in as well. But, you know,
which, by the way, I might have misfired on my buds from yesterday, because is an LSU sports rivalry budding between South Carolina and LSU? When you take in the totality, we had the football match.
No, look, explain why. You've got a legitimate.
See where I'm going?
Go ahead. Explain that one.
We had this football game that we have to avenge next year. We will be going down to Baton Rouge next year. Obviously, the women's basketball has been a thing for the past season and a half or 2 seasons with LSU. And baseball, Bill, we got that coach.
And I don't know if we really discussed it last week. Last Thursday, but South Carolina and LSU will play the season-ending series against each other.
Is something happening?
And we're looking way into the future, but let's just, for the sake of completely ridiculous speculation, that series is going to be for the SEC. Let's just go ahead, and that series will determine the regular season SEC champ.
We already played for the SEC in the women's basketball, right?
Yep.
Shoved
them down there.
So, listen. That was a great game day, son. They had the picture of Camila Cardoso.
Yeah.
And they had Shane as her and Brian Kelly on the ground. A+ work. I'm just saying, is there something budding here? Maybe.
Yeah, again, if just in case you missed it last week at any point, the LSU baseball series will be here in Columbia. Paul Maneri gets to face his former team May 15th through the 17th. And we're going ahead and calling it.
Big series.
That series is for the SEC title.
Biggest series
for the regular
of his career.
season. Yeah, that'd be the biggest series of his South Carolina tenure. By the way, Oklahoma, new SEC team opens SEC play for the Gamecocks here at Founders Park, March 14th through the 16th. But good point. You might have something
I was
there.
thinking about I said, man, I might have misfired on that one. The bud might be the rivalry.
The women's basketball certainly got it going. Basketball, you know what? Yes, Pat McMahon treated us dirty. Remember, he made Ray Tanner and everybody fly up there. We don't know. I don't think they made an offer. Fly up there and talk to him only to take the LSU job hours later. We don't like him at LSU as the basketball coach. It's a good point. Are we 2-0 against them in basketball? I have to look that up later. Got to go back. I can't remember if we've taken them down twice now.
Just mark it down.
Oh no, we lost this year. We lost that awful game where we had the big lead. We didn't even make it to it.
Which game?
Oh, dear.
You saying we lost the awful game? Which sport you talking about, sir?
Oh, dear.
Are we on to something?
Okay. All right. Write that down in your little notebooks to keep up with as we move forward in this 2024-2025 athletic sports calendar year with basketball and with women's basketball and with baseball as well. I don't know what other sports that LSU's really – are they good at women's soccer? Can we beat them down in women's soccer?
I don't know, but I'll check.
Okay, we'll find out. We'll get to the bottom of that. And so we'll look ahead to Akron. But, all right, we're wrapping it up. Final thoughts, Preston Thorne, on LSU, South Carolina.
My final thoughts was that was a heartbreaking loss, obviously. But I think after 3 games, I can officially say that this is a very good team, and we will compete and win some games that maybe some people don't think we will this year.
Final thoughts from me. Let this be, hopefully, a building point for this program, not this team. Let it be a building point. Obviously, you want the team to take something and learn from it and move forward with the rest of the year. LSU's not a national championship team, but they are a good team. Garrett Nussmeier can get that team to a college playoff. If they are 10-2 at the end of the season, they're probably in the college football playoff. Probably. We'll see. If you can play that game, it helps me stand by again my thoughts that South Carolina can beat Oklahoma and Texas A&M and have a truly special year. Appreciate all of you purging it out.
Let's move forward.
Time to move forward. We'll talk about Akron tomorrow. Everybody loves a great contest. And I tell you what, AAA Heating and Air, they might have one of the best contests I've ever heard of. It is the oldest air. They're going to find the oldest AC unit in the Midlands service area. Do you have the oldest air conditioning unit in the Midlands? If you do, it could pay off.